This guy, despite not having the so-called talent of a beast tamer, boldly opened a pet shop. Every day, Lu Yu welcomed all kinds of visitors, and among them, not a few showed contempt for his sharp eye. For example, today 3 million. Your shop is really ripping off customers too much. A slime is worth 3,000 at most. Do you even know anything about beast taming? The new female customer shouted, pointing straight at the slime on the table. This is by no means an ordinary slime. 3 million is guaranteed to make you feel it's worth every single penny. Lu Yu calmly replied, I guarantee you will be completely satisfied. It's only at the awakening level. With that much money, I could buy a pet with starlet grade potential. Lu Yu nodded. What you say is absolutely correct. However, this slime of mine is far superior to those starlet grade pets. This slime is actually a mutated pet possessing a transcendent devouring talent. As long as it is provided with enough resources, it can continuously break through its level, let alone the starlet grade. Even reaching the monarch level is not a problem. Hearing the guy's fancy introduction, it sounded quite appealing, but the girl flew into a rage because she was convinced that Lu Yu was not trustworthy at all. The guy didn't even bother to waste more words to convince her, just shrugged slightly and replied curtly, you can just test it, and you'll see right away. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by a third guest, the clacking of high heels on the tiled floor causing both of them to turn their heads to look at the same time. The outcast of the Lu family is now trying to run scams. Oh, sorry, I forgot that you've already been kicked out of the family. Upon seeing the figure of this woman, Lu Yu's face immediately darkened. Bai Yufei, what are you doing here? Yufei shrugged casually, I just came to visit my poor ex-boyfriend who doesn't even possess the talent of a beast tamer. Hearing these words, the female customer's face turned pale. Someone who didn't even have a beast tamer's talent boldly opening a pet store, what kind of logic was this? Does my personal matter affect my pet selling? Lu Yu immediately asked, seemingly noticing her doubtful gaze. Before the other could react, Yufei cut in, her next words even more jarring than the last. Lu Yu, a talentless person like you, once left far behind by me, should just accept being ordinary. Her sarcastic words made the female customer unable to hold back her indignation anymore. It was one thing to suspect Lu Yu was selling fake goods, but seeing him bullied like this by his ex-girlfriend was hard to accept, so she spoke up. Oh, isn't he this the typical wikil supporting character often seen in movies? I didn't expect to see this kind of person in real life. Lu Yu immediately chimed in, some people are just born with such a nasty nature, there's no need to waste energy arguing with her. Bai Yufei snorted coldly, casting a disdainful look at him. A shameless scammer like you actually has the nerve to talk about me. It seemed as if a sense of justice suddenly flared up in her heart. The female customer resolved to use herself to prove that Lu Yu was not a scammer. She then pulled out a high-quality silver and gently handed it toward the slime. And the slime quickly absorbed the silver into its body. Its potential jumped straight from awakening level 5 to level 9. Furthermore, it had also mastered an impressive water element skill, and the girl was overjoyed as if she had just found a treasure. As for Yufei, she was utterly shocked, her face instantly darkening. This can't be true. The customer glanced at her, curled her lips, and thought to herself how lucky she was to have been clear-headed earlier and not believed those ridiculous slanders. Otherwise, she would have missed out on a great bargain. With that, she turned to ask Lu Yu, shop owner, I brought my own materials for this upgrade, so don't you dare charge extra for that little beast, okay? He smiled and replied, 3 million is 3 million. Will it be card or cash? The girl generously pulled out her loyalty card and handed it to Lu Yu. The transaction was completed successfully, and in his subconscious, the figure of an extremely beautiful and alluring woman suddenly appeared. Congratulations to the master on successfully selling your first battle pet. The taming space has been unlocked, and you have received the ultimate god-level talent, Nether Dungeon. The master has contracted with a dark attribute beast, your power has surged, your potential has risen, and you can use the soul connection to help the beast grow faster. After so many long years, Lu Yu had finally gotten his hands on the precious beast taming ability. This feeling was truly unspeakably refreshing. Thinking back to that fateful day 20 years ago, at that time Lu Yu was still just a little child, brought home to be raised by Xiaoyaji, the wife of Lu Qianfeng, the head of the Lu family. But no one expected that the woman would suddenly change her attitude in the blink of an eye. She yelled that if it were not for him possessing an extremely rare dragon system talent, no one would have bothered to bring home an orphan like him to waste food. Do you really believe your parents died in an accident? Yeji said venomously, her face showing no regret, only sheer cruelty. She grabbed Lu Yu by the collar, preparing to use her underhanded methods to strip away his innate ability. Yezi's goal was to funnel all the power into her own son to help him reach the peak, in order to restore the illustrious reputation of the Lu family. Just like that, poor Lu Yu was forced to surrender his high-level talent. He was ruthlessly trampled underfoot by Yaji in utter disdain. She sneered that once he lost his origin, he could just remain a useless person for the rest of his life. Even though 20 years had passed, he still could not forget that cruel tone of voice. At first, Lu Yu thought he could only live as a cripple for the rest of his life, running this small shop all by himself to get by day after day. To his surprise, a few days ago, right on his 18th birthday, he accidentally activated the legendary beast taming system. As long as he sold pets as requested, he would receive countless skills items, reward points, and many other valuable gifts. For an experienced shop owner like him, enticing customers to buy had never been a difficult challenge. The proof was that after only a few days, he had successfully sold a seemingly ordinary slime that possessed the devour ability, bringing himself a god-level talent. The moment he regained his power, Lu Yu swore that he would reclaim every single bit of the bitterness and humiliation inflicted upon him by the Lu family, without leaving a single cent behind. Hey girl, be careful not to let him lead you by the nose. Returning to the present, Yu Fei was still intentionally trying to ruin his important business. She tried every possible way to obstruct Lu Yu's business. This made him feel extremely irritated. He stepped out from behind the cash register, walked straight toward her, and said loudly, "I have reached the absolute limit of my patience with you, bye Yu Fei." Seeing Lu Yu emitting a fierce aura, Yu Fei thought he was going to use force against her, so she quickly threatened to call the police immediately. Who would have thought Luck Vu showed a cold attitude and directly kicked her out of his shop. Seeing that he only used his mouth and hadn't taken action yet, Diet Fee pushed her luck, challenging that she would stubbornly stay right there, and if he was so capable, he should bring out another mutated pet, and she would pay and buy it immediately. Just then, the system sent a secret notification to Luck Vu, reminding him that there was still one pet waiting to be adopted this week, and completing this order would earn him a super huge cis-grade gift package. Initially, Luck Vu was too lazy to argue with that arrogant girl, but for the sake of the system's reward, he gave her one more chance. The remaining super pet was the mutated skeleton emperor. Just hearing the name was already incredibly cool. However, because this little one was still in its infancy and not yet grown, when Luck Vu carried it out, the tiny skeleton looked as dazed and bewildered as a fool. As soon as she saw the item, Diet Phi bristled. She angrily gritted her teeth, questioning how Luck Vu dared to use this piece of trash to deceive her, when she herself had awakened a B-grade beast-taming talent. Luck Vu kindly whispered a reminder to her that this was actually an extremely rare, genetically mutated version of the skeleton emperor. Naturally, the girl surnamed Bai didn't believe it at all. In her eyes, this was just a lowest level, ragged dark-type pet with absolutely no royal demeanor. Hearing that, Luck Vu looked askance at her out of the corner of his eye, silently mocking her ignorance, and then explained that this little guy's innate skill was incredibly overpowered. It only needed to continuously engage in battles and defeat opponents, and its hidden power would automatically increase without limit. Eventually, it would transform to become the supreme king of the realm of death. Diet Phi immediately shot back, telling him to stop bragging because she had never heard of any pet possessing such a limitless power-up ability. The female customer who had just bought the silicon slug had been standing nearby witnessing the argument, and irritated by Diet Phi's attitude, she had to interrupt, criticizing her for having mental issues, shouting to buy it before. But when someone brought out the real deal, dotting it in every way, Luck Vu quickly intervened before a war of words broke out, advising Miss Shen to calm down, as not everyone was as discerning and had such an eye for quality as she did. However, Diet Phi was determined to cause trouble at all costs. She immediately pulled out her phone, threatening to call a leading industry expert to expose Luck Vu's sales scam. True to her word, she immediately dialed for help, asking the shop owner surnamed Duong if he could spare some time to drop by the pet shop near the school's west gate for a moment. Just a moment later, the savior summoned by Diet Phi arrived and stopped in front of Luck Vu's legendary pet shop. As soon as he stepped over the threshold, this guest was drawn in, his eyes locked onto the jelly slug in Miss Shen's hands, which possessed an incredible potential reaching up to level 9. In particular, its ability to devour various minerals to strengthen itself left him dumbfounded in astonishment. Seeing her acquaintance arrive, Diet Phi joyfully waved her hand repeatedly to call store owner Duong over to her side. This man's real name was Duong Than, the owner of the Hai Hong pet shop. He quickly apologized for being distracted, and then presented the pet Diet Phi had pre-ordered, asking if she wanted to sign the contract right on the spot. However, Diet Phi didn't even bother to look at the item in his hand, but quickly pulled Duong Than aside, asking him to evaluate Luck Vu's bizarre pet for her. Even though it outwardly looked like just a tiny, seemingly harmless moving skeleton, Duong Than, with his extensive experience, sensed something unusual and immediately activated his data-analyzing divine eye to inspect it closely. Thanks to that ultimate move, he realized that this little skeleton possessed a special bloodline with the ability to upgrade infinitely through combat, and furthermore, it was still in an unknown state without any binding contract. Instantly, he turned to ask Luck Vu if he wanted to hand over this little guy, stating he would buy it no matter the price, which left Luck Vu with nothing to do but shrug and chuckle secretly because he had finally met a connoisseur who knew how to recognize quality. Seeing the scenario go completely off track, Diet Phi flusteredly turned to ask Duong Than why a high-class beast-taming expert like him would want to spend a fortune to bring home such a level 1 trash pet. Duong Than immediately countered, asking how she dared to doubt his discerning eyes, given that the little guy's potential was infinite, and in the future, it would easily rule supreme in the underworld. The final statement left Diet Phi frozen in shock. She had never dreamed that Luck Vu was telling the truth, and that the tiny skeleton was indeed a jackpot with power that had no ultimate limit to its growth. Seeing her rival embarrassed, Miss Shen seized the opportunity to mock her, saying she had already guessed that such a handsome boss would never lie, which made Diet Phi turn purple with rage, and she turned to scold her furiously, telling her to shut up because she had spent money to bring home a useless jelly slug. Who would have thought that the character named Dong then would throw another bucket of cold water on them by announcing that he had just used an appraisal skill to check that slime. The scan results showed that this creature also possessed unlimited, ultimate growth potential. It wouldn't be long before that young lady of the Shen family could easily surpass her peers of the same rank. That decisive declaration was like a direct slap to Diet Phi's face, but Duong then was not afraid of offending her, as his highest priority right now was to acquire the little skeleton from the shop owner at the price of 3 million. Duong then's face changed color instantly, not because he regretted the money, but because he realized 3 million was so cheap it was practically a giveaway. He immediately swiped his card, handed it to him, and laughed warmly, saying he would always remember this favor, while Luck Vu casually accepted it and told him there was no need to be so polite. Only then did Diet Phi dumbfoundedly realize the true value of that little skeleton. Otherwise, Duong then wouldn't have shown such a regretful look, and she flew into a rage again, pointing at Luck Vu's face and scolding him furiously for daring to deceive her by not selling the high-quality stock to her, while Luck Vu just shrugged and said she had only herself to blame for being blind. That woman Diet Phi, refusing to change her ways, continued to act outrageously, demanding that he produce another mutated beast for her no matter what. He coldly replied that it was out of stock and there wouldn't be any more from now on. That nonchalant attitude irritated Diet Phi beyond endurance. She loudly demanded to know why an outcast with absolutely no talent dared to act so smugly in front of her. Being repeatedly insulted, Luck Vu lost his patience and shot back that he had awakened twice. As soon as the words left his mouth, he released a suffocating pressure. The pressure was so terrifying that Duong then could barely stand, inwardly assessing that this power must be at least a rank. However, the young lady of the Shen family beside him shook her head resolutely, reasoning that she herself was a rank but had never created such an immense pressure, so she guessed Luck Vu must have reached S rank. He just chuckled inwardly, thinking that Sis rank would be too shocking, so he might as well let them believe it was S rank for safety. Right at that moment, Batch Diet Phi was so terrified that she collapsed onto the floor. She had never heard of anyone awakening twice and possessing such immense rank potential, and ironically, that person was the very ex-boyfriend she had utterly despised, leaving her helplessly muttering impossible over and over again. Luck Vu calmly delivered a chilling statement: in this world of battle pets, nothing is impossible. Choking with rage to the point of grinding her teeth, yet shamelessly brushing it aside, Diet Phi made a brazen proposal: since you are so talented, I will give you another chance to pursue me. Hearing those words, the onlookers could only give dry, awkward laughs at how utterly ridiculous and preposterous she was. Luck Vu got goosebumps just hearing it, so he flatly rejected her without a second thought, stating he had no interest and telling her to get lost and out of his sight. Swallowing her anger and calling him a traitorous wretch, Diet Phi left angrily in utter bitterness. Now that only the three of them were left in the shop, Luck Vu used the excuse of closing time to politely see the remaining two guests out. Before stepping out of the door, the young lady of the Shen family pulled out her phone and expressed her desire to exchange contact information with him. Seeing this, Duong then quickly followed suit and did the exact same thing. Luck Vu reminded himself that Shen Nianian was a freshman in the prestigious beast taming department. This girl would definitely serve as a bridge to bring countless potential customers to his shop. As for Duong then, although he was a direct competitor in the industry, but perhaps they could cooperate on a major business venture together in the future. From now on, he probably wouldn't have to worry about those tedious task quotas assigned by the system anymore. After weighing the pros and cons carefully, he nodded and scanned their codes to add them both as friends to keep it quick and simple. He then decisively and smoothly saw his two distinguished guests out of the shop. Luck Vu stretched long and lazily, though he was exhausted today. His harvest was quite decent in return, and at this moment, the system asked him if he wanted to open the pet store. Of course, Luck Vu did not refuse this opportunity. Currently, there were only a few sparse pets in the system store, none of which caught his eye, so the system softly explained that these were all free promotional items. You get what you pay for. Switch to the paid items, Luck Vu pouted and criticized, leaving the system lady with no choice but to nod in agreement. The system beauty quickly swiped across the virtual screen, instantly switching to a list full of high-end beast companions that required payment. Our young man scrutinized every single option, but his temperament was extremely picky. At one moment he complained about this one's ugly appearance, and at another, he said that one didn't match his talent, until he came across a three-headed hellhound with terrifying combat power that he finally paused to take a look. The system thought he was going to choose that hound. To its surprise, he flatly rejected it for the ridiculous reason that he had been bitten by a rabid dog when he was a child. Then how about this trio of dark attribute beasts? Even though its blood pressure was already rising, the system still had to grin and bear it, patiently continuing to introduce them to Luck Vu. This dark attribute was indeed tailor-made for his newly awakened talent. Luck Vu began to think deeper and more seriously, and in the end, finalized his purchase of a world-destroying demon dragon worth a whopping 600 points. Right after exchanging for that little dragon, Luck Vu's points also instantly dropped to around 0. It was supposedly adopting a tiny newborn dragon. Yet, the moment that world-destroying demon dragon made its appearance, Luck Vu's eyes widened in shock at its massive body. He pressed the system, asking if this was supposed to be a baby dragon, to which the lady replied that the dragon race is naturally larger, so the host could rest assured. This little black dragon was currently at Awakening level 1, but in the future, it could make a massive leap up to Overlord level 10, possessing 2 innate skills, devouring dark energy to evolve infinitely, and the second ability was absorbing the power of its own kind, hunting other dragon lineages to thoroughly plunder their attributes. Seeing his pet already holding a guaranteed ticket straight to Overlord level 10 right from the start, Luck Vu was extremely pleased with himself. The potential ranks of beasts were divided in a clear order from low to high, starting from Awakening, Extraordinary, Starry, Bright Moon, Radiant Sun, Saint Spirit, Overlord, and ending at the peak, which was Monarch. Even the country's top 3 experts only owned a single battle pet at the Monarch rank, yet the first creature Luck Vu tamed was already on the verge of reaching this legendary threshold. The system then asked if the host was satisfied now. Luck Vu nodded vigorously, grinning from ear to ear and praising it endlessly. He did not hesitate to sign the contract immediately. The agreement between the two sides was quickly established. Now he was qualified to use his talent to inject more power into this demon dragon. Luck Vu nodded slightly in agreement, and then immediately began to transfer dark energy to the baby dragon. Just a moment later, the system's voice rang out, congratulating him on successfully nurturing his battle pet to the Awakening level 10 milestone. However, the baby dragon being suddenly stuck and unable to break through left Luck Vu in utter confusion. He curiously asked the system why it could not break through. That is because the host's beast-taming domain is still too small right now to accommodate a creature that exceeds the Awakening stage. The system gently resolved that doubt. It seems that in addition to finding a high-quality pet, Lu Yu also urgently needs to train to increase his own strength. He then asked the system if it was possible to shrink this dragon, since its current appearance was too flashy, and of course it was. The girl nodded in agreement and then instructed Lu Yu that he only needed to use his thoughts to control it. He followed her instructions, and immediately the great dragon shrank to the size of a cute puppy. It looked incredibly adorable, and this compact size also made everything much more convenient than before. At the same time, Shen Nianian had returned to the dorm of the Beast Taming Academy, and she excitedly showed Ruo Yun the slime she had just bought. Seeing this, Ruo Yun panicked and whispered to Nianian to put it away, not to let Chu Ying see it. However, before Nianian could react, Chu Ying appeared with an arrogant look and an unpleasant tone, saying that she had seen everything. She reminded her that Nianian had previously promised not to bring any more useless pet beasts into this dorm room. Nianian didn't mean it. Ruo Yun hastily stepped forward and stood in front of Chu Ying to protect Nianian. But Nianian was no pushover, and immediately countered that this pet was not a mere ornament, so she was not violating any rules. Hearing this, Chu Ying became even more disdainful, mocking the contract with a trash slime, as she herself was a level 10 beast tamer who owned an extremely powerful steel wolf. Before Nianian could answer, another friend intervened, believing that with her grade talent, Nianian would not do such a foolish thing. Despite them trash-talking the creature as useless, Nianian still hugged it tightly and asserted that this was a mutated slime capable of swallowing to grow. Of course, no one believed that, and Chu Ying angrily shouted that a slime could at most reach level 3, so there was no way it could have infinite upgrades. I have signed a contract and it has already reached level 5, Nianian said, almost wanting to jump up to defend her pet. At this moment, her roommate held her tight and advised her not to talk nonsense, because no matter how many resources were spent, a slime could not become extraordinary, and even Ruo Yun thought she had been scammed. Not wanting to argue with them any further, she gently placed the slime she was holding onto the table. She intended to prove its infinite potential to them right here in this room. Then, Nianian asked Chu Ying if the resources invested in her steel wolf had already exceeded 2 million. So what? Chu Ying replied and summoned her pet to boast that it had already reached the threshold of level 9 awakening. Nianian just smiled, pulled out materials worth 2 million and told her to keep her eyes wide open and watch closely. Immediately after, she poured all of those resources into the tiny slime she was holding. Chu Ying did not care, thinking anyone could feed resources, but what mattered was whether it could absorb them. Yet when she turned away, the other two were astonished to see the slime had consumed them all. Immediately after, it began to gradually transform. Before long, from an initial level 5 creature, it rose straight to level 10 and officially broke through successfully. A level 10 slime. Everyone still could not believe their own eyes at that moment. Chu Ying also had to turn back and look, her surprise leaving her so shocked that her mouth was wide open. It's not over yet, keep watching everyone, Nianian proudly declared with a smug look. Little Slim's power has now advanced leaps and bounds, reaching the brilliant starry tier. Chu Ying's anger flared up in disbelief. There was no way she would believe a tiny slime could ascend to such a divine tier. Out of sheer frustration and annoyance at the sight, Chu Ying pointed fiercely at Nian, loudly demanding a proper duel outside. Nian was by no means a pushover, and with the confidence of having a new pet from Lu Yu, she did not hesitate for a second to accept the challenge. As soon as they stepped onto the yard, Chu Ying immediately summoned her steel wolf, the Iron Claw Wolf, to the arena. eager to show her opponent the price of offending her. Placed next to Nian's tiny jelly-like slime, the iron wolf looked much larger and far more majestic. Yet, right at the first pounce, little Slim launched a fierce counterattack with its Crimson Strike skill, hitting the wolf so hard that its head spun. Although her eyes had witnessed the entire scene in sheer disbelief, she still could not believe the harsh reality that a tiny slime monster dared to unleash such a dominant ultimate skill, torturing her pet to such a miserable state. Chu-Ying was so shocked that she collapsed to the ground, her trembling lips repeatedly questioning how such an absurd thing could happen. Standing tall in victory before her opponent, Nian said proudly, "This is the mutant slime you were just looking down on. Since we share the same dorm room, I'll let it slide this time," she said before coldly turning her back and walking away without looking back. Only then did Ruoyun hurriedly run after her to ask where she had bought that masterpiece slime, to which Nian gently replied that they should return to their room first, and she would tell her everything. The next morning, the mythical pet shop of owner Lu Yu welcomed another visitor. A rather handsome and stylish young man who had stopped by out of curiosity upon seeing the newly opened shop. As soon as he entered, he was drawn to Lu Yu's tiny, fast-asleep miniature world-ending dragon. His eyes lit up as he muttered, "Gifting this sub-dragon species beast to my sister would be absolutely perfect." Putting his thoughts into action, he immediately asked Lu Yu how much the mini-dragon costs. "I'm sorry, this is my personal companion pet, so it's not for sale," Lu Yu gently refused, but the arrogant young master smugly boasted that he had endless money to spend, so Lu Yu should just name his price. Lu Yu wondered to himself if this guy had a hearing or language impairment. Despite a clear explanation, he still insisted on buying it, yet out of respect for the customer, Lu Yu maintained his politest attitude to reaffirm that he would absolutely not sell it. Immediately, the arrogant dandy, who thought he owned the world, showed a menacing face and sneered, saying that Lu Yu was indeed someone who didn't know what was good for him and preferred to do things the hard way. He then instantly summoned his black feathered crow to show off his power, intending to teach the shop owner an unforgettable lesson. Glancing at the tiny black crow, Lu Yu could only sigh wearily at the young man's ignorance and delusions of grandeur. Suddenly, the little dragon, who had been sleeping peacefully, squinted its eyes, not even bothering to lift its butt off its seat. Just a gentle flutter of its wings was enough to hit the black feathered crow. The crow, which was fluttering around, suddenly fell to the floor with a thud. The young master was also caught in the backlash of the powerful energy, causing him to cough up a mouthful of fresh blood in great pain. Clutching his chest, he tried to stand firm, filled with utter shock as he realized that the dragon had completely defeated his pet with just a single glance. Was that terrifying bloodlust from earlier really emitted by this tiny creature? The young master asked himself tremblingly, with 1,000 questions racing through his mind. Even a top beast-taming clan in the country like the Lu family doesn't possess a demon dragon breed, do they? Facing the young master's question, Lu Yu only replied with a look of contempt. Seeing that the situation was getting tense, the young master feared he would get beaten up, so he quickly left. Therefore, he hurriedly escaped from here as soon as possible. He's already run far away so quickly, truly as cowardly as a mouse, Lu Yu muttered mockingly while holding the gun. After leaving his pet store, the young master caught a taxi straight to the hospital. The treatment cost for his single encounter with the destructive demon dragon reached up to 5 million. While walking and looking at the long hospital bill, he accidentally bumped into another young man. "Oh my god, what blind bastard bumped into me like this?" he grumbled. To his surprise, when he looked up, he saw the young master of the Lu family, Lu Qianyan himself. "Who do you dare call a bastard? Big brother, why are you here?" Upon seeing his older brother, the young master became as obedient as a puppy. "I came to see who dared to make the Lu family lose face like that," Tianyan replied resentfully. Hearing this, his younger brother's face turned pale, and he hurriedly waved his hands to stop him. "Brother, please don't cause trouble. That person is not someone we can afford to offend casually." However, his younger brother's advice made Tianyan even angrier. He furrowed his brows and asked him back, "Oh, is there really someone our Lu family cannot touch?" "It's a beast tamer who has contracted with a demon dragon, brother." "What, a demon dragon species?" Lu Qianyan's voice pitched up sharply. After that, he fell into deep thought, because a beast tamer capable of controlling a demon dragon had not appeared for so many years. Lu Zi then led him to find that beast tamer. Although Lu Zi used to be very afraid of his brother, this time he did not dare to do as his brother said, because he believed even his older brother was no match for the Lu Yu he had just met at the store earlier. Seeing his foolish younger brother, Tianyan gave him a painful smack on the head. "Stupid, we are here to apologize, not to cause trouble." Being both beaten and scolded by his brother, Lu Zi did not dare to resist. He only smiled foolishly and replied, yes, I know. You wouldn't be as stupid as me, brother." With that, he quickly led the way, and Tianyan followed his brother out of the hospital, thinking deeply as he walked. In Madou, most dragon tamers belonged to the Lu family, and if there really was a demon dragon species, it couldn't be hidden. However, if someone possesses the ability to control a demon dragon, it is highly likely that they are more or less related to the Lu family. Before long, the two brothers stopped in front of the mythical beast store. Lu Yu was still open for business as usual. Seeing Lu Zi return with another man, he laughed mockingly. "Oh, you couldn't beat me, so you went to get reinforcements." He saw Tianyan opposite him cracking his knuckles, looking as if he wanted to rush in and fight him. However, after that he grabbed Lu Zi. He forced him to bow 90 degrees and apologized to Lu Yu Sr. I came this time on behalf of the Lu family to apologize to you. My younger brother is still young and naive, so he has offended you. I have prepared a small gift. I hope you, my lord, will be generous enough to forgive us and let him off this time. Although Lu Zi was quite unwilling, he still had to follow his brother's lead and apologized to Lu Yu in a few words. After that, Lu Chanyan took out something which was the space crystal, a platinum-grade space-type item that can be used to upgrade spaces. Upon seeing it, Lu Yu's eyes lit up, while he wondered what background these two brothers had to be so generous. The young man was scratching his head trying to find a way to upgrade his pet pouch, but unexpectedly, high-quality goods came straight to him to offer themselves. Seeing this as a great deal, Luddy CV cheerfully turned to chat with Thin Vim. It was just a minor issue. I am generous enough not to hold a grudge against a child. As soon as he finished speaking, he put his arm around the other's shoulder very intimately, asking if they had just leveled up and unlocked a new pet slot. Thin Vim was slightly startled and then quickly replied respectfully, Senior, you truly have an eye for this. I have recently upgraded my fire attribute to a new level, so there is room for a third one. His eyes lighting up as if he had struck gold, Led CVV quickly pitched a super fire chicken, guaranteeing it would perfectly match the young man's innate ability. The price is extremely affordable, just exactly 3 million dong. I invite our esteemed guest Thin Vim to seal the deal right away. Looking in the direction he pointed, the man only saw a golden feathered chicken that looked extremely weak and harmless. Although he was half doubting for fear of displeasing the expert, Thin Vim had to nod and agree to finalize the deal immediately. His younger brother Latrekich, standing nearby and unable to contain his impatience, leaned in to whisper to his older brother, Brother, our family is rich, but we cannot just throw money out the window like this. Seeing the brother's secretive behavior, LTCVB smiled knowingly and asked if they thought he was deliberately setting a trap to force them to buy it. We wouldn't dare. Thin Vim quickly pushed his brother away to avoid trouble, explaining timidly that he did not yet fully understand the senior's deep intentions in introducing this chicken. It's just that I appreciate your sincerity, LTCVB explained with a smile. Next, the young man began to use his persuasive skills to praise his heavily discounted pet. He asserted that this fire chicken had the ability to consume all types of fire in the world to evolve even further. Hearing this, Thin Vim's jaw dropped. He quickly stepped forward, asking Letty CVP for permission to test whether this was true. The boy nodded in agreement immediately, and then a bright blue flame instantly burst to life in the man's palm. Not only did the golden feathered chicken show no fear towards that cold flame, on the contrary, it excitedly swallowed it whole. At that very moment, Thin Vim seemed to see the image of a mighty fire chicken as it stretched and grew. Goosebumps broke out all over his body with excitement. This was clearly no ordinary poultry, but a super warrior of the future. Overwhelmed with emotion, Thin Vim bowed to thank Lutzi Veep and expressed his deep gratitude, promising that the entire La family would forever remember this great favor. It's just a small pet, why make such a big deal out of it? Lutzi Vivi waved his hand with a laugh and told the other to stand up. Seeing that the expert seemed easygoing, Thin Vim mustered up the courage to curiously ask if he had any connection to the notorious dragon-taming Letixi family. Upon hearing the name of the Letixi family, the smile on LTCV's face instantly vanished, his eyes widening as anger surged within him. After a long while, he calmed down a bit and coldly replied that he and that family had long cut all ties and had nothing to do with each other. Looking at that hostile attitude, Thin Vim secretly realized that this senior must have a deep-seated hatred for that family. Therefore, it was not convenient to ask any further. Then the two brothers of the La family also excused themselves to leave, as there was nothing left to worry about. Waiting until they were out of sight, Lu Yu returned to his usual radiant expression. It was time for him to test this spatial crystal. Before long, Lu Yu's beast-taming space underwent a spectacular transformation. It was expanded tenfold from 10,000 square meters to extraordinary level 1. Although he had anticipated the effects of the spatial crystal, witnessing this scene still left Lu Yu overwhelmed. To Lu Yu, relying solely on absorbing spatial energy to upgrade the beast-taming level was indeed a bit of a waste. Now the space was spacious enough and his level had also been raised. So, it was time for this world-destroying demon dragon to break through. Infused with a stream of dark energy from Lu Yu, the dragon finally achieved a new breakthrough. It broke through to the extraordinary level, while also comprehending a crimson tier skill called Demon Dragon Soul, and awakening the Dark Dragon Soul and the soul-destroying power of the Demon Dragon. The system instantly popped up congratulating Lu Yu. Looking at the world-destroying demon dragon majestically spreading its wings and roaring powerfully, Lu Yu teased it, "Don't be in a hurry, before long I will let you taste what real dragon meat is like." Taking advantage of the empty store and having some free time, Lu Yu called Shen Nianian to ask if her slime's upgrade had gone smoothly. On the other end of the line, Nianian happily boasted that her pet had awakened to level 10 last night, with its potential reaching Stardust level 9. She also mentioned that Yang King, that shop owner, had even closed his shop to focus on nurturing the little skeleton, which greatly surprised Lu Yu. As for Yang King's side, ever since the little skeleton appeared, It had always been a chaotic scene of flying chickens and barking dogs. His way of training it was also very strange, which was to have the little skeleton continuously slaughter chickens. Just like that, after only a few days, its strength had already reached extraordinary level 3. Thanks to Yang King. The chicken vendors in the market these past few days were tireless, looking at him as their savior and constantly showering him with praise, saying how quick the young man was, how he was an extraordinary beast tamer who slaughtered 100,000 chickens in 2 days, and that the chickens seeing him would call him the living king of hell. After the little skeleton finished slaughtering the last chicken, Yang King stood up and said politely, "Everyone, today is my last day slaughtering chickens. Have you finally come to your senses? An extraordinary level beast tamer working in a slaughterhouse is such a waste of talent," they thought, assuming Yang King was about to leave to do something much bigger. To their surprise, he continued, "No, I am preparing to go slaughter pigs." Yang King's goal was very simple, to let the little skeleton grow through continuous killing. Once he slaughtered enough animals at the slaughterhouse, he could obtain a slaughtering license and move on to higher level slaughterhouses. There, many awakening level and even extraordinary level ferocious beasts would be waiting to be slaughtered. By then, the little skeleton could reach Stardust level 10, and Yang King could also break through to the Stardust level. Just thinking about that made Yang King feel that his future was incredibly bright. That guy was also extremely diligent in texting to report the situation to update Lu Yu. He really had to secretly marvel that this guy had an unspeakably bizarre style. Even so, it was clear that nowadays only the slaughterhouse could help the little skeleton unleash its combat talent, using massive numbers to overwhelm quality. If this pace is maintained, Yang King's chance of advancing to a high rank is completely feasible, proving that the first 2 customers are both developing very smoothly. Just as he was contemplating, Yang King sent another message saying someone had just contacted him to buy goods, so he quickly guided them to stop by his shop. His heart swelled with infinite gratitude, because at this moment, what he yearned for most was a buyer visiting. Right after that, Lu Qianyan sent a message saying he wanted to bring his younger sister, who had just awakened a special ability, to the shop to buy a top-notch pet. Receiving 2 great deals at the same time made Lu Yu ecstatic, while the little beast next to him kept clinging to him, demanding to be coddled. He gently patted it and told it to stay calm, promising that he would soon expand the territory to help it level up. No sooner had he finished speaking than today's first customer walked in. He flashed a bright smile and quickly stood up to welcome them. However, that middle-aged customer had a disgruntled, annoyed look on his face. That was Zhang Shirong, the manager of the illustrious Zhang family in the Madou region, who was secretly criticizing this small shop for being poor. Thinking so, he stepped closer to him and spoke disdainfully. "Mr. Yang recommended I come here, saying your shop possesses the most top-tier creatures. I wouldn't dare claim to be number 1, but this place indeed only provides highly selected high-quality stock." He smiled and replied with confidence. Looking at the young man's nonchalant attitude, the customer became even more annoyed, curious to see where this cramped little corner could get high-quality goods to display. All his intended explanations were brushed aside, and he realized he had run into an extremely difficult customer again. "Enough chatter, bring out those high and mighty treasures you just bragged about so I can take a look." The other's arrogance annoyed him a bit, but for the sake of getting rich, he had to suppress his anger and activate the management interface. He brought out a small iron cage containing a cute tiny creature inside. Just as he opened his mouth to introduce it, he was immediately scolded harshly by the customer, who mockingly accused him of trying to fool people by presenting a mediocre monster as a rare item. "You must think I'm a fool who is easily tricked. I thought you had something unique, so I was ready to enthusiastically connect you with the wealthy Zhang family on the main street. What a waste of an opportunity handed right to you. You'd better close shop in the next few days," the arrogant man ranted, not letting anyone get a word in. His dismissive attitude made Lu Yu so furious he wanted to give him a good beating, but just as he was about to lash back fiercely, the doorbell rang again, welcoming the next customer who walked in. "The Zhang family, how grand," a young girl's clear voice suddenly rang out. Glancing at the familiar figure, he immediately recognized his partner's mischievous younger sister. These 2 siblings were indeed cut from the same cloth with their nonchalant attitude. As for the manager, the moment he turned around, his face turned pale upon seeing the young master and young lady of the Luo family, whose power far exceeded that of the Jiang family, causing him to hurriedly and fearfully ask if they were also here to shop. A terrifying suspicion arose in his mind. Could this shabby shop actually be a backyard funded by the Law family? If that was indeed the case, it would be disastrous, because the entire Jiang family's business relied on the La family. Once they accidentally offended this great clan, the Jiang family would be finished. The eldest miss of the Law family did not even bother to glance at the Vin. She casually walked straight past him with her older brother. Thian Wiem strode up to Luck Vu, still maintaining his usual utmost respect, bowing low and politely greeting him as senior. The younger sister of the La family, standing behind, also looked at him curiously, her cheeks suddenly flushing with shyness, as she thought to herself that this shop owner was both so young and incredibly handsome. Witnessing this scene made Zhang the Vain almost drop his jaw. How could that young-looking Luck Vu make the young master of the La family submissively call him senior? Because of his extreme panic, he accidentally mumbled out loud, only to immediately receive a burning glare from La Thienvium along with a warning to shut up, asking if he had been permitted to speak. A very gentle remark from the other party was enough to scare the Vin so much that his limbs went weak, and he knelt flat on the floor. Thienvium did not even bother to look at the man at his feet. He turned around to introduce his little sister, Tin Tin, to Luck Vu, who, although a bit proud and stubborn, also highly respected him just like her brother. As for Luck Vu, although he outwardly appeared to welcome the two distinguished guests very thoughtfully and enthusiastically, deep down he was incredibly frustrated. The reason was that once that green goblin creature was drawn out, it could not be returned to the system. If he could not sell it off this week, he would face starvation. And then how could he afford to nurture the great dragon to break through? Thinking of this made Luck Vu's stomach churn. Being a very perceptive person, Thienvium only needed a glance to see that something was wrong with his expression, secretly worrying and wondering if the senior was upset about not being able to sell the battle pet earlier. Seeing this, La Thienvium quickly spoke up, "Senior, if that goblin does not have an owner yet, please let me have it." At this point, the younger sister Ten standing aside looked anxious. "Brother, you haven't even had the chance to ask clearly about that goblin's strength, and you're already rushing to close the deal." "I completely trust the senior," Thienvium firmly asserted. This solid, trust-filled statement immediately soothed the anger smoldering in Luck Vu's heart. Regaining his usual cheerful and enthusiastic demeanor, he began to talk endlessly, introducing the special characteristics of the little goblin to the two siblings of the La family. Pointing at the creature standing in front of them, Luck Vu gave a professional assessment that this goblin lineage had the ability to pass down and greatly enhance both aptitude and strength through generations of its offspring. He also analyzed a key point, which was that the more outstanding the strength of the original goblin itself, the higher the rate of producing descendants with top-tier quality. Hearing this, Tin could not hide her astonishment and exclaimed, "If that infinite loop continues, a highly dominant race will be born in no time." Eavesdropping from the side, the Ven widened his eyes and opened his mouth in shock as if struck by lightning. Good heavens, did I just reject a battle pet with such heaven-defying power? Meanwhile, Thienvium immediately made an earnest request to Luck Vu. "I beg the senior to prioritize letting our La family have this top-grade goblin." Looking into their eyes, which burned with desire, Luck Vu was lost in thought. Wasn't the reason the three great dragon-taming clans had been so powerful for so long because they held the bloodline of the ancient giant dragons? He understood very well that with a terrifying reproduction capability, no less than that of the ancient giant dragons, it was only a matter of time before the La family rose to the peak of glory once again. In any case, to Luck Vu, no matter who this item was sold to, it would bring in money. Whoever bought it made no difference. After calculating for a moment, he smiled and nodded in agreement. "All right, but a beast tamer must immediately establish a spiritual contract with this goblin right here. Have you chosen anyone yet?" Nevertheless, Luck Vu still seemed a bit concerned and gently reminded them. To have a beautiful girl pair up to fight with that grayish goblin creature would indeed look a bit mismatched. However, Thienvium held his ground and firmly assured him, "Rest assured, senior, I have already targeted a highly suitable candidate for this task." He shared more about his plan. He was originally the illegitimate son of the former family head, and his biological mother had long been secretly persecuted to death by the first wife. Fearing that Luck Vu might still not be at ease, Thienvium quickly explained further, "I was the one who reached out to pull him back to the La family, so he will absolutely be wholeheartedly loyal to me." Ironically, the shocking secrets that had just reached his ears made the Vin turn pale, thinking to himself, "This is bad. Did I just overhear private matters only to be silenced?" His face was still dazed with shock, thinking to himself that they did not even bother to hide this important matter in front of him, which meant a major change was about to happen. Just then, Thienvium noticed the Vin's bewildered gaze fixed intently on him. As soon as their eyes met, the Ven startled and pretended to be oblivious. "Suddenly it has gone so dark, I can't see anything anymore." Seeing him act so dramatically, it was annoying. Thienvium suddenly thought of sending him on his way to be rid of the trouble, while the other man continued to mutter miserably, "I'm doomed. How can I live like this with deaf ears and blurry eyes?" No longer bothered to be patient, Thienvium glared straight at the Ven and gave a stern warning. "Consider today's incident a gentle warning for you." His tone was thick with cold murderous intent. "You had better keep your mouth shut. If even half a word of rumor reaches my ears, you will pay for it." Pale with fear, he quickly covered his mouth and nodded repeatedly to signal, "I understand. I guarantee I will be as silent as a clam from now on and won't utter a word." Witnessing the whole drama from start to finish, Luck Vu could only sigh wearily. It was lucky for the guy that he was smart enough to adapt quickly to save his little life. Meanwhile, Tin timidly asked with a worried look, "You helped Lan subdue the goblin, so what about my share?" Her eyes sparkled with desire. "I also long to have a really cool battle pet." Seeing that pitiful look, Thienvium felt soft-hearted and comforted her immediately. "Don't worry, the shop owner will design a much higher quality pet for you. That green monster can't even compare." Hearing this, Tin's eyes lit up as if she had struck gold. "It turns out there are even more super battle pets." In the blink of an eye, she stepped right up to Luck Vu with an expectant face. "In that case, Mr. Shop Owner, Tintin blinked pitifully, making it hard for him to refuse. Is there a pet born just for me? Fearing she might be underestimated, she quickly showed off her strength. My talent is high-level ice attribute. I want to make friends with a super cool ice-type little guy just like my brother's fire chicken. Observing that confident sales pitch, Luckvu nodded in approval. Approved. With that, he took out a tiny magical creature. This creature will definitely be a perfect match for you. Seeing the tiny creature, she asked with a bit of hesitation, could this be a snow fox? Her doubt quickly vanished as Ten asked excitedly, Mr. Shop Owner, this little fox also has the rare ability to absorb ice, right? Luckvu did not spare any praise for her sharpness. Spot on, it has the ability to assimilate cold air to upgrade its power without limit. Anxious to test it out, she immediately cast a spell. Let me test it out a little. As soon as Ten brought the energy close, the little guy chirped with extreme excitement. But the surprise that followed really made her burst with joy. The little fox was indeed absorbing the icy energy, causing the tip of its pure white fur to gradually turn a light blue color. Extremely pleased with this new companion, she quickly asked for the price. How much is this one? 10 million or 20 million? No matter how expensive it is, I'll buy it. Luckvu smiled and gave his usual friendly price, the same as before, a flat price of 3 million. Seeing his sister so utterly infatuated, Vim quickly made a bank transfer. Senior, I have sent the full 6 million. Thank you so much for supporting us siblings. Hearing this, Luckvu just waved his hand and laughed. It's a small matter, don't be so polite. Amidst the joyful atmosphere, a resounding roar suddenly echoed from the guardian beast. Hearing the strange noise, he immediately cast his gaze toward the shop's door. Right outside of Luckvu's pet shop, a dense fog was enveloping everything. It didn't take him much time to identify that stream of energy. It turned out to be the scent of the sacred dragon, really well hidden. Indeed, as expected, Luva's eyes narrowed guardedly. It seemed the Lu family had finally started to lose their patience. In the compound of the splendid mansion of the Lu family, brilliant golden sunbeams stretched across the garden paths. Lounging on the lush green grass, a pet dragon was dozing off, enjoying a relaxing sunbath. The butler timidly approached the powerful woman who was enjoying her tea and asked, Madam, why did you call for me? She leisurely took a sip of hot tea and then coldly ordered, how has the task I gave you to closely monitor that kid Lu Vu progressed? The sharp woman added a few more words, take advantage of this opportunity to search for the immense wealth that his parents once hid. Thinking of that, she angrily slammed the cup down on the table. So many years have passed, and you still haven't found any trace. Hearing the reprimand, the henchman hurriedly knelt down and reported, your subordinate has discovered that Lu Vu is showing some very unusual behavior. She then softened her voice and said, tell me the details. Immediately, he reported a shocking piece of news. The useless Lu Vu has suddenly recovered his ability to control spiritual beasts and has just subdued a black dragon. This news sent the Lu family's mistress into a fury. She slammed the table, jumped up and yelled, what did you say? Her voice choked with a mixture of confusion and anger. Clearly his power was stripped away long ago. How could he return to the path of beast taming? A malicious smile quickly appeared on her calculating face. Lu Vu, oh Lu Vu, it seems that this time I cannot show you any mercy. Sensing his master's murderous intent, the subordinate, though still bewildered, hurriedly bowed his head to accept the order. Your subordinate knows what to do. In another development, the magical notification board suddenly rang to deliver good news to the young man. Congratulations, user, on completing the milestone of selling your first 5 pets. The mechanical voice rang out with excitement. Your special reward is a random supreme-grade transcendent training skill. The glowing display panel asked if the player wanted to claim the reward right away, with the text clearly showing the achievement of selling 5 pets and a highly enticing claim button flashing in anticipation. As soon as he skimmed through the notification, the young man's eyes widened in amazement. The opportunity to possess a second ultimate skill has appeared. This is truly too absurd. Without hesitating for even a second, he decisively tapped the claim reward button to see what surprise his luck would bring next. The screen immediately flashed with sweet congratulations. Congratulations. You have successfully activated the supreme, powerful ability named God-Slaying Heavenly Harmony. Right at that moment, the siblings Vim and Tin, along with their pet lineup, were also transported to the scene by the magic circle. The young man couldn't help but break into a cold sweat from the terrifying pressure, thinking to himself whether this master had just comprehended some extraordinary fire-type ultimate technique, because he knew very well that a typical high-level skill was completely incapable of creating such a suffocating pressure. Directing a suspicious gaze towards Lu Vu, he wondered if it was the legendary level of rumors, while the protagonist was still scratching his head in bewilderment, asking, why are you all kneeling like that? However, the siblings were now so terrified that they were trembling, their faces completely drained of color due to the fearsome pressure. Hearing his question, both of them forced themselves up, but their legs were still trembling and weak from the terrifying aftershock. Trying to take a deep breath to regain his confidence, the older brother politely said, goodbye, senior, it is already late at night. My sister and I would like to take our leave so as not to disturb you. Standing beside him, the little sister pouted and whined, big brother, I still want to stay and chat a bit more with the handsome shop owner. But she was immediately dragged away by her brother, who scolded her softly, don't be naughty, follow me home right now, leaving her looking back regretfully and murmuring, no way. As darkness enveloped everything, the space around his pet shop fell into a deathly silence. However, Hang Duck rode his monster and rushed over, shattering the peaceful atmosphere, shouting for the useless Luck Vu to come out and surrender his life quickly. On the contrary, Luck Vu was not flustered at all but sighed in frustration. Indeed, instead of walking the wide-open path of survival, he preferred to rush headlong into a dark dead end. Hearing that, he spoke up threateningly. What an arrogant tone. Back then, leaving you with this pathetic life of yours was already too generous. However, that only made Luck Vu's determination boil even more. I have survived resiliently until today, becoming a beast tamer, precisely to make you all pay for your crimes. At that moment, painful memories of the past in the Luck family suddenly flooded back vividly in his mind. Back then, the poor little Luck Vu could only kneel on the ground and beg for help. The family head wants to steal my natural talent, Uncle Duck. Please save me. Ironically, that ruthless man did not hesitate to use his power to blast the pitiful child far away. He even gave him a look of contempt along with extremely shameless words. Having the family head notice your talent and dedicating yourself fully to the young master is a great blessing for you. However, preferring death to submission, the little boy hurriedly turned around and ran away. I don't want to. But how could the remaining strength of a little child compete with an adult? He only had to lift his foot to step directly on the boy's tiny back. After throwing Luck Vu to Notchai's heels, Hang Duck growled threateningly, did anyone permit you to leave? Despite his body trembling with pain, Luck Vu stubbornly refused to surrender. That is my ability, no one is allowed to take it away. However, responding to him was only the man's cold shoe sole along with a harsh declaration, this is not for someone like you to decide. On the opposite side, that woman leisurely raised her teacup as if enjoying an interesting play. Do it quickly, make it neat. As if already prepared beforehand, Hang Duck hurriedly bowed his head and obeyed respectfully. After that, he tried his best to stomp hard on the feet of Luck Vu, who was lying on the ground. Hang Duck frowned slightly and let out a cold laugh of contempt. So what if you have become a beast tamer now? He smirked triumphantly and said that he was facing the entire Luck family. Hearing this, Luck Vu also laughed mockingly. How much is that Luck family even worth, and what are you, a lackey like Hang Duck, supposed to be? These words made Hang Duck so furious that he gritted his teeth. A useless castaway dares to speak so arrogantly. Right at this moment, a newborn baby dragon suddenly appeared and roared to the heavens to show off its might. Seeing that scene, Hang Duck snorted coldly with envy, growling, I didn't expect you to be able to make a contract with the legendary dragon race. Standing firmly on the back of his Tempest dragon, he continued to mock, this creature looks like it hasn't grown up yet, but has already been forced by its master into hard labor. He confidently pointed at his own chest with an attitude of utter disdain for his opponent. I'm afraid it won't even withstand a single attack from my Tempest dragon. Next, he suddenly gave an order, waving his hand to point downward and shouting, unleash your move, Tempest. Immediately, the Tempest dragon spread its massive wings to carry him soaring high into the clouds, creating extremely fierce tornadoes. Below on the ground, both Luck Vu and the little dragon stood dead still, without the slightest expression of fear. Meanwhile, a series of freezing, howling winds continuously surged straight toward the two of them. Hang Duck showed his familiar look of contempt again. After all, it is just a lonely level 10 transcendent baby dragon, yet you have the audacity to challenge me. However, when witnessing the little dragon suddenly grow huge and use its wings to shield Luck Vu, he could not help but be shocked and wonder, what is this? Impossible. The little dragon revealed its glowing red eyes filled with fierce murderous intent, its wide-open mouth bearing rows of extremely terrifying sharp teeth. At this very moment, Lu Yu slowly spoke up, asking if his opponent only had that much ability. Standing tall under the protection of the baby dragon, he raised his cold voice, aiming directly at the stubborn old man who was seeking his own death. Suddenly, the little dragon let out a thunderous, incredibly fierce roar. Witnessing that, Hangdi was instantly terrified, his entire body trembling like a leaf as he wondered what kind of monster had appeared. He stared wide-eyed at the extremely calm young man and declared loudly and proudly that his level 10 starry beast could not be defeated. However, Lu Yu did not care in the slightest and snapped back that the other Swen dragon was not even worthy of being a tasty snack for his pet. Right after that, he slightly spread his hand to activate the skill named Supreme Dragon Domain. He used an extremely serious tone to order the release of the power. As soon as the words left his mouth, Hangdi trembled violently in terror, unable to believe how his opponent could possess such an overpowered skill. His facial expression went blank with astonishment, because that was an ultimate power that originally belonged only to the legendary lineages of true dragons and devil dragons. In contrast, Lu Yu slightly curled his lips into a delighted smile and said it was a mere coincidence that his companion belonged to the devil dragon lineage. Furrowing his eyebrows, he uttered resolute words, asserting that this was indeed the destructive devil dragon species that specialized in devouring ancient dragons. Instantly, the two beasts rushed at each other, unleashing a fiery duel. The match progressed so rapidly that it had ended before Hangdi could even compose himself. Only when the baby dragon's thunderous strike crashed directly into him and his pet did he bewilderedly try his best to endure it. As soon as the words were spoken, both the old man and his wyvern were blown backward and collapsed. The backs of both master and beast slammed heavily against the hard, barren ground below. Trembling violently, old Hangdi stared blankly at the person standing before him, demanding to know the reason for this humiliating defeat. Lu Yu looked down at the person prostrating at his feet and mockingly asked how good it felt to be trampled upon by a useless person. Without the slightest hesitation, he delivered another hard kick and asserted that he had been waiting for this moment of revenge for a very long time. At this point, the old man, unable to bear the pain, frantically begged for his life, hoping he would remember his efforts in raising him during his childhood. Even so, Lu Yu didn't listen to a single word and simply questioned him back about what that so-called care actually was. He suddenly grabbed the miserable old man's hair tightly and forced him to keep his eyes open to witness it. Opposite them, the baby dragon in its giant form had lifted the opponent's Swen dragon high up into the sky. The giant creature opened its gaping mouth, intending to swallow the ill-fated target whole. Without any mercy, the pet dragon eagerly swallowed the prey right into its belly. Witnessing that heartbreaking scene, Hangde could only weep bitterly, calling out the name of his beloved lost pet. Throwing away his dignity, he repeatedly kowtowed, begging to make amends, pleading for a way out, and promising to obey any command. Listening to that pathetic pleading, Lu Yu only replied casually and mockingly, "Is that so?" His eyes suddenly flared with a furious red glow as his tightly furrowed eyebrows brimmed with murderous intent. Lu Wu approached Hangde with a cold expression, telling him to go to the underworld and repent. Hearing those words, the little dragon suddenly lifted one of its legs high up. From above it came down and stomped hard directly on Hangde. Immediately after that, splashes of fresh blood splattered, turning the whole area bright red. At this moment, only a small crater indented into the ground was left at the scene. Lu Wu gently patted the little dragon's head in praise, saying it had done an excellent job, O world-destroying demon dragon. At this point, the system screen cheerfully popped up with a crisp laugh to congratulate the host on successfully defeating the opponent. The virtual interface pointed to the item hovering in front of him, announcing that he had received a rare Crimson Heart tier reward. Lu Wu kept his eyes fixed on the treasure despite the system's lengthy explanations about the demon heart containing all the essence of the devil. The system continuously provided useful parameters on the ability to upgrade the Spirit Beast's dark skills from the Purple Crystal tier straight to the Crimson Heart tier. Suddenly, the virtual assistant girl spun gently, smiled, and added that there was still another reward. Her fingers lightly swiped to display the numbers as she gave a radiant smile, announcing that he had accumulated 900 points and was eligible to tame a second Spirit Beast. Hearing that, Lu Wu quickly glanced at the display screen in front of him, full of curiosity about the next creature. He gently spread his hand to catch the shimmering, mystical spark, telling himself that he possessed the innate talent of the god-destroying flame. The young man seemed to have made up his mind, deciding to choose this beast right away. As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out his index finger and pressed firmly on the virtual control screen in front of him. Instantly, the system processed the successful data conversion from the Flame Emperor bird. A bird with an appearance like a red crane spreading its wings appeared, possessing a level 1 awakening and a Holy Spirit potential of level 10. At that moment, the system continued to send a summary of the new pet's stats, highlighting special attributes such as Flame Soul, Flame Overlord, and Imperial Bloodline. Witnessing that scene, Lu Wu was extremely excited and spared no praise for its supreme, fierce demeanor. He gazed intently at his new companion and nodded in approval, thinking it indeed deserved to be called a Holy Spirit tier beast. Next, Lu Wu compared it with other spirit beasts. Even the guardian dragon of the Sia Kingdom was only at the level 1 Holy Spirit tier. The young man thought back to the entire world map. On this entire planet, there were only 6 guardian divine beasts that had reached the legendary Holy Spirit tier. He affectionately placed his hand on the fire bird's head, confident that once it grew up, it would surely surpass the guardian dragon of the Sia Kingdom. As soon as those words were spoken, a magic symbol suddenly lit up, accompanied by a decisive announcement of the contract's completion. Immediately, the firebird flapped its wings and soared into the sky, leaving behind burning waves of energy radiating all around. Next, Lu Wu suddenly remembered another important matter and smiled to himself for almost missing it. He then shrunk the firebird into an adorable, tiny version and placed it on his shoulder, telling himself that this would keep things neat. Lu Wu affectionately patted his pet's head, thinking that with these two powerful helpers, his plan for revenge against the Lu family was close to succeeding. The young man turned to look at the dragon standing self-pityingly in a corner in front of him and jokingly asked if that was true, "O world-destroying demon dragon." Seeing that, Lu Wu broke into a cold sweat and timidly advised, "Can you be a little less calculating, big brother?" The young man didn't bother to hide his upcoming plans, promising that once he sold the last pet this weekend, he would immediately take care of upgrading its bloodline and strength. Standing right beside him, the purple firebird suddenly let out a melodious cry. As soon as it finished, it spread its wings wide and soared straight ahead. It turned out the bird was heading straight for that massive dragon. Then it kept circling back and forth in front of the destruction dragon, enthusiastically fluttering its wings to flirt. Immediately, an invisible arrow hit the bullseye, making the dragon's icy heart flutter. The foolish dragon quickly fell into the trap of love and became hopelessly enamored with its counterpart. Witnessing this scene, Lu Wu could only sigh helplessly, thinking how true it is that even a hero cannot overcome the beauty trap. Suddenly, Lu Wu called out to the destruction dragon from behind to give it a surprise gift. Opening his hand to reveal the treasure, he told it that if it swallowed this dark essence orb, ascending to godhood would only be a matter of time. Opposite him, the destruction dragon became frantic with greed upon hearing this. It immediately opened its massive mouth and gulped down the windfall. Right after that, its whole body began to tremble violently, accompanied by an excruciating headache. Seeing the situation becoming unstable, Lu Vu anxiously warned it to take it slow because it contained a massive, extremely aggressive amount of evil energy. Watching the dragon choke and cough, he clicked his tongue and said that eating so hurriedly was bound to make it choke. The young man then took a deep breath and told it to stay calm so he could help. After speaking, a powerful surge of energy radiated from him to trigger the transformation process. He nimbly channeled his warm, powerful energy directly into the destruction dragoness body. A while later, Lu Vu let out a sigh of relief, saying that it was done and the dragon could now freely digest that spiritual power. Instantly, the destruction dragon regained its composure, stretching its body high to show off its inherent might and majesty. Just then, the system notification board flashed, sending warm congratulations to its master. The system's voice joyfully announced that the destruction dragon had fully digested the dark treasure, helping the pet's skills level up significantly. The interface displayed detailed stats of the new war god, a crimson rank evil-eyed dragon, possessing a gaze that destroys the soul and distorts the opponent's reason. Its crimson rank demon body granted it total immunity to all of the enemy's physical attacks. The destruction dragon puffed up with pride, acting arrogant and claiming to be invincible, demanding the little bird bow down to it. But just a second later, it turned around to nuzzle its head against Lu Vu to flatter him for more treats. Its large, round eyes blinked pitifully, begging its master for another one of those demon candies because it was just too delicious. Lu Vu chuckled and shook his head, asking if it really thought something so precious was just a daily snack. Once both pets had gone to sleep, he began to carefully scan the surrounding area. Looking at the pile of debris strewn before him, he could only sigh in exasperation. Having to clean up the battlefield out of nowhere was truly a huge hassle. Lu Vu immediately picked up the phone and called Invincible, saying that he had just strolled in front of the shop and accidentally made a mess of the courtyard, asking him to come over and help clean it up. He intentionally understated the situation, saying there was only a bit of a mess. Invincible, on the other end of the line, nodded and said, "I know what to do." In the blink of an eye, he and his band of capable assistants were at the scene. Invincible froze at the terrifying sight before him. Was this what he called just a bit of a mess? His intuition told him this was the blood of an ancient dragon, and looking at the jagged wind-slashed marks all around, it was surely caused by a gale wyvern. Invincible mused that only the Lu family in this area dared to forge contracts with dragons. It seemed this senior had a deep grudge against that family. He glanced at Lu Vu with eyes full of admiration, as he was still able to overpower the Lu family force and achieve such a total victory. After completing the inspection, Invincible turned to his subordinates and said, "The rest is up to you all," to which his two henchmen replied in unison. Working until the next morning, the area was finally cleaned up, returning to its tidy state as if nothing had ever happened. The scene opened at the majestic and magnificent royal residence of the Lhasa clan. Upon seeing Invincible's silhouette, a subordinate hurriedly ran over to report in a panic, "Master, you have finally returned. The young lady is throwing a tantrum inside the house." Before he could finish his sentence, Tintin stormed out, filled with murderous intent, roaring, "Big brother, have you finally lost your mind?" She angrily interrogated him, "Why did you use up all our precious resources just to invest in the breeding of those sickly green goblins?" Never having seen Tintin so furious, she argued that the reproduction efficiency of spirit beasts was already extremely low, and playing this bet was too reckless. Invincible composed himself and explained, "These specialized goblins possess the capacity for infinite reproduction to build a powerful clan. By the time I officially take over as family head, that army will be a solid foundation for Lhasa," he asserted with absolute confidence. Tintin pouted indignantly and asked, "But even so, you shouldn't neglect my little snow fox just to pamper those goblins, right?" He gently patted her head to coax her. "Come on now, I have already purchased the best equipment. Both your ice fox and fire chicken will level up rapidly." At that moment, a maid entered carrying a large box. "Young master, here are the treasures you requested to be exchanged." Tintin's eyes lit up, and she quickly snatched the box, demanding to take a look. As soon as the lid opened, she cheered in delight. "Oh my, there are so many. Big brother is truly the most generous millionaire on earth." She excitedly picked up 2 sparkling stones. "There's both subterranean fire and polar ice in here. In the next life, I vow to continue being your good little sister." The joy was short-lived as Invincible immediately poured cold water on her enthusiasm. "Easy there, young lady. That is a gift I prepared for Senior Lu. By the way, take it over to him later," he added. Hearing this, Tintin's face twisted. "Say what?" She sulked and complained, "You stingy person, not giving me a gift and making me the delivery person instead. That's too much. I'm gonna go tattle to Senior Lu about you." In the blink of an eye, Tintin was standing right before the mythical pet shop. Standing hesitantly in front of the veranda, she muttered to herself, "Wow, who would have thought my silly brother had such deep strategic foresight?" Because just a moment ago she had been lecturing Invincible, saying those were rare treasures that money couldn't even buy, yet he dared to go and offer them all to someone else. He had only calmly told her, if not for Senior Lu's help, with my mediocre talent, I would have been stuck at the king level for my entire life. Possessing the power of this fire chicken, our protagonist is more than capable of reaching the supreme throne, and even covets the seat of the overlord. Ting Ting secretly calculated that by clinging tightly to Lord Lu's thigh, if luck came her way, she might even turn into a dragon and become an overlord. Senior Lu, I've come to visit. After saying this, the young girl gently opened the door and walked in. Ting Ting submissively presented a blazing earth firestone and a mystical ultimate ice block, saying that this was a small gift from Laza. The young man surnamed Lu was slightly surprised and said that her brother had just helped him yesterday, and he hadn't even had the chance to properly thank him yet. The girl smiled radiantly and said that it was a trivial matter, as the pet he sold to them had helped trigger the owner's talent upon evolving, so this small gift was nothing compared to that immense favor. Lu Yu scratched his head and pondered. It turned out that the pets sold from this system supermarket were actually that high quality. The young man flashed a bright smile, saying that in that case, he would accept it without putting on any more acts. The young girl tactfully said goodbye to avoid being a bother, adding that if there was anything he needed help with, he should just call her. After the guest left, he lazily picked up the hot fire gem to examine it. Lu Yu muttered to himself, guessing that this blazing treasure seemed to suit the taste of his purple firebird very well. Without hesitating for another second, he waved his hand to summon it. Lu Yu leisurely brought the hot stone in front of the beast, telling it that this was its gift and to give it a try. The purple firebird immediately devoured the delicious treat quickly and with relish. The young master surnamed Lu widened his eyes in surprise, not expecting it to level up rapidly right after swallowing it. Sure enough, the purple bird had transformed into a completely new look with its combat power skyrocketing. A holographic notification appeared to congratulate the owner that his divine beast had reached the transcendent level. It also learned the ultimate blazing transformation skill, which enhanced both the heat and the number of fire cannons fired. Looking at his new pet, Lu Yu praised it highly. Reaching a red star on its first upgrade meant that premium items bought with points were indeed far superior to freebies. At this time, in the bustling campus of the Mado Beast Training School. Since class was in session, the surrounding area was relatively quiet. Teacher Liu Lushan was enthusiastically lecturing, emphasizing that her course revolved solely around the philosophy of might makes right. The female instructor smiled warmly and asked the whole room if there was any hero who felt confident in their own talent. She flashed a radiant, sweet smile and gently asked who wanted to come up to the podium to help her demonstrate. A crowd of male students, their eyes shining like headlights, scrambled to raise their hands, calling for the teacher to choose them because they possessed golden pets and awesome awakened abilities. The beautiful teacher added a quick note, gently reminding them that coming up meant entering the ring to fight with their beasts. Scanning the room, she pointed directly at two students, Ruyan and Xiaobang, inviting these two young people to the stage. Ruyan startled, pointing at her own chest in confusion, wondering if there was some mistake. Meanwhile, her classmate Xiaobang still maintained a completely expressionless face. Whispers arose from below, asking if that wasn't the famous hot girl Du Ruyan, who reportedly possessed a top-tier support talent and a bright future that made everyone burn with envy. The remaining person, Ngim Thiu Bang, has made a contract with a furious werewolf, a creature capable of causing extremely terrifying burst damage. The support system doesn't even have an attack skill, one to be crushed easily. Nuoc Van heard about Thiu Bang and turned pale with fear. Neem Neem laughed in amusement. The poor moonlight butterfly is about to be turned back into a scruffy green caterpillar. Nuoc Van said helplessly, you really love watching drama and aren't afraid of trouble. Please think of a way to help me. Neem felt proud and said, say some nice words, and I'll consider fighting in your place. Nuoc Van immediately threw herself into her arms and flattered her. Neem is the strongest person in the dorm, I beg you. Hearing this, Neem stood up to take her place. It's just a small matter. Some flirtatious boys cheered excitedly. They've changed to another beauty to fight. Neem, our goddess. She stepped forward to explain, ladies and gentlemen, Nuoc Van is of the support system and is not good at single combat. Can I fight in her place? Lacthine replied gently, of course you can. She turned to ask, does this classmate agree? Thiu Bang replied, no problem. He raised his voice arrogantly, in any case, whoever I fight against, I will win. Neem summoned her pet without hesitation. Come out. Everyone whispered again, am I seeing things? Slime again. She passed the exam to our school but still contracted a low-level pet like Slime. The opponent is a high-grade beast, so the slime will probably be sliced into 100 pieces. Even Lacthean was surprised. Classmate Neem, are you sure you want to use a slime to fight? She answered decisively yes. Thiu Bang said in a contemptuous tone, let's make this clear beforehand, in pet battles, life and death are destined. He glared and teased, if your slime dies I won't compensate you. Vuong Vu angrily exclaimed, how dare you talk to my goddess like that? Trio Ho, sitting next to him, sneered, no matter how beautiful she is, without strength she is just a trophy girl. Ms. Liu also said that strength is what matters most. Nuoc Van turned around to remind them, don't underestimate Neem's slime. Trio Ho sneered, no matter how powerful a slime is, it's only at the 3rd level of awakening. Nuoc Van said coldly, just watch and you'll see. Neem warned seriously, "Today, this lady will teach you another free lesson. Do not easily look down on any beast." Theubang replied in a leisurely tone, "Ridiculous, stop talking nonsense." He waved his hand to summon Come Out Furious Werewolf. Theubang and his pet looked equally fierce and violent. However, Neem and her slime didn't flinch at all. Both of them were full of confidence as they faced their opponent. The furious werewolf let out a roar, starting to activate its power. It frantically swung its giant claws and rushed straight toward the slime. The furious werewolf fully revealed its bloodthirsty and aggressive nature. It powerfully swung its sword, and a surge of fiery red energy rushed towards the slime with overwhelming momentum. Neem pursed her lips in a satisfied smile, crossed her arms, and snorted. How could the slime sit still in one place? It immediately unleashed the blue water shimmer skill. Seeing this, Theubang curled his lips in disdain and ordered, "It's just a gold-grade skill. Mad Blade Werewolf, charge." Even though it was trapped on all sides by the slime's blue water current, the Mad Blade Werewolf still stubbornly resisted. On the contrary, it became even more rabid and aggressive. Theubang arrogantly shouted, "Fighting against this young master, who has reached the transcendent level, means you are just begging for death." The Mad Blade Werewolf frantically charged straight ahead, its dual swords sparking with bright red electrical currents. Before it could touch the slime, it was swept up into the air by the swirling water current, growling in bitter frustration. Vong Vu gasped in amazement. The goddess's slime is truly one of a kind. Treoho pouted and replied, "What is so great about it?" The beast struggled frantically on the ground, trying to break free from the watery shackles. Theubang smugly thought to himself, "He definitely can keep this creature under control for long." Vong Vu suddenly stood up in surprise and shouted, "Look! The Mad Blade Werewolf looks weird." Treoho rubbed his eyes in astonishment. "Am I seeing things, or did it just spit up blood?" The beast suddenly retched and coughed up a mouthful of bright red blood. It collapsed to the ground, crying out in agonizing pain as its dual swords slipped from its hands and fell. He froze in shock and stammered, "How could something so absurd happen?" Neem smiled teasingly, "Are you thoroughly convinced now, sweetie?" He still stared in disbelief, his face pale as a ghost, muttering to himself, "This is utterly absurd. How could I lose to the claws of a slime?" Dazed, Theubang slumped to the ground, clutching his head and questioning himself, why did things turn out like this? Squinting with a bright smile, she said, "The world of battle pets is inherently full of countless wonders." Neem added, "And one day my slime will kick a dragon's jaw so hard it won't ever be able to raise its head again." The crowd of spectators below was frozen for 5 seconds, unable to recover their composure. Disregarding his image, Vuong Vu jumped up in excitement and shouted loudly, "That's indeed the goddess of my heart. Just a few words from her and my blood is already boiling." Treeho blinked in admiration and said, "How does Neem raise her battle pet so well? Teach me the secret." Nuong Van ran over in a rush, calling out loudly, "Neem." She threw her arms around Neem, saying joyfully, "I knew all along that you would win." Neem shrugged and replied humbly, "It's nothing, a piece of cake." Standing in a corner, Theubang shook his beast and whimpered, "Mad Blade Werewolf, please wake up." Nuong Van stepped over and gently offered, "Let me treat it for you." Scratching his head in embarrassment, he replied, "Then I am sorry to trouble you, and thank you so much." Neem crossed her arms and teased, "Nuong Van's healing is very expensive. This is going to cost you a fortune." She smiled gently and said, "It's fine, after all, we're all classmates." She waved her hand, chanted an incantation, and called out loudly, "Moonlight Butterfly, Pure Light Harmony." A swarm of sparkling blue light butterflies appeared, fluttering around the beast's body. He stared in astonishment. In the blink of an eye, it was completely cured, and it was even a golden skill. Lu Chen asked pressingly, "Could this be the white moon butterfly with bright moon tier potential?" She asked further, "But hasn't the white moon butterfly been completely extinct for a long time?" Ruo Yun calmly replied, "This is not a white moon butterfly, but a moonlight butterfly evolved from a green-bordered insect." She cried out in shock, "Even a green-bordered insect can evolve." Thinking to herself that there must be an expert pulling the strings behind this, she instructed Ruo Yun, "Remember to come by my office for a moment after class." Right in the office, Lu Chen said gently, "Just as you analyzed, beast taming has infinite possibilities, whether it is a slime defeating a werewolf or a green-bordered insect transforming into a moonlight butterfly." Ruo Yun nodded obediently, "Yes, that is indeed the case." Lu Chen continued, "All of these miracles are linked to a process of ingenious nurturing." She told them that tens of thousands of years ago, there was once a civilization that pushed the art of beast taming to its glorious peak. Ruo Nian asked curiously, "Could there really be such a wondrous thing in the world?" She explained, in those days, there was a profession called breeder. It was said that masters could even train the legendary carp to turn into a dragon. Ruo Yun gasped in admiration, "It sounds completely absurd and unbelievably magical." Ruo Nian laughed, "Whenever you're free, just go to the history department to listen to lectures. They teach all of this there." She said regretfully, "Unfortunately, this profession requires extremely harsh innate talent, so it has been lost for a long time." Ruo Yun pondered and speculated, could the true identity of that shop owner actually be a breeder? Lu Chen gasped in confusion, "Which shop owner?" Ruo Nian replied immediately, "The owner of the mythical pet shop, who else? That slime and green-bordered insect were both bought from there." She told herself that she must visit, convinced in her heart that this person was surely the hidden master. In front of the mythical pet shop, a luxury car slowly drove up and parked. The car door opened, and teacher Luotian stepped gracefully onto the street. She looked up, admiring the prominent signboard right in front of her. She smiled brightly and said, "It's definitely here, there's no doubt about it." Inside, Lu Yu was talking with the world-ending demon dragon he praised. "Not bad. The purple flame emperor bird has already reached the 10th tier of the extraordinary realm," it replied resentfully. "Sooner or later, I will surpass that girl." Lu Qin stepped inside and asked, "Excuse me, is the shop owner in?" The purple flame emperor bird suddenly swooped down, a dark purple aura of majesty flashing from its eyes. She froze in place, unable to move a muscle, and cried out in panic, "How strange, why are my limbs so stiff?" He approached and explained gently, "I hope you can understand, my pet hasn't fully controlled its new power yet." She asked in shock. It turns out that pressure just now was also a form of special ability. Lu Qin suddenly realized her attitude just now was a bit impolite. She cleared her throat to introduce herself. "Excuse me, I am Liu Lu Qin, a lecturer at Manhwa Beast Taming University." She smiled warmly and asked if he was indeed the owner of this shop. Lacthian continued, "Shen Nianian and Du Ruoyun are both my students, and they keep praising the pets here as the strongest in the region." Lu Fu modestly replied that it was just an empty reputation. She hesitated for a moment and then asked quietly, "I wonder if I might be so bold as to ask, you are a pet breeder, aren't you?" Confused, he asked back, "A breeder?" Lu Fu casually replied, "If you insist on thinking so, then let's just go with that." He silently calculated that besides sales, this system also integrated a breeding module, so using this expert label in the future seemed quite convenient. Lacthian was bewildered by the cryptic answer. She muttered to herself, "What kind of wordplay is this guy using? Why does it depend on what I feel, rather than him confirming it?" She let out a helpless sigh. Well, for such a private matter, he probably wouldn't open his mouth to a total stranger anyway. Lacthian got straight to the point. "I still haven't found my fourth pet. Is there one here that suits me?" He rejoiced inwardly. The fish has taken the bait. He calmly said, "Then go ahead and state your specific requirements." Lacthian quickly replied, "My talent is a class dragon wing, which significantly enhances the dragon type, so I need one with a genuine dragon bloodline." Hearing this, Lu Fu asked in surprise, "Dragon type? I wonder what your relationship is with the Liu family, one of the 4 prestigious dragon taming clans." She lowered her head and, after a long hesitation, finally uttered, "The thing is I." His question accidentally triggered a painful memory of that man shouting furiously, "A direct bloodline of the Liu family, yet you only have an A-class talent." Since childhood, she could only silently endure the insults. While the 4 great clans were full of S-class experts, and the Liu family had an S-class genius, she was just an A-class reject. Lacthian brushed it off. Buying a pet shouldn't require declaring one's family background in such detail, should it? Lu Fu scratched his head and thought, family struggles are indeed complicated. He looked embarrassed and replied, "Unfortunately, my shop doesn't provide ordinary dragon-type pets." He calmly added, "But if it is a real dragon, I do have one." Lacthian was shocked, unable to believe her ears, and sharply retorted, "How is that possible? The 4 great clans have monopolized all ancient dragon breeds, so don't try to pull a bait and switch on me." He smiled warmly and replied, "My shop always puts credibility first. This is my pet, the world-destroying demon dragon. Those ancient dragons are probably barely enough to fill the gaps between its teeth." Lacthian became even more stunned and blurted out, "A dragon of that kind has a bloodline rivaling that of a divine dragon." She watched anxiously as Lu Fu carefully held a glass jar in his hands. She couldn't hide her doubt. A precious dragon is kept in such a tiny jar. He opened the lid, and inside, only a tiny fish was seen splashing around with its tail. Lacthian's eyes widened as she questioned, "Where is the divine dragon you mentioned? Or are you planning to use this carp as a late-night snack?" She said resentfully, "You must have brought me the wrong thing to look at." He calmly replied, "There is no mistake at all." Lacthian snapped in annoyance, "No matter how you look at it, this is just a red carp, something sold all over the market for just a few coins a pound." Luck Vu was not at all annoyed. He approached and whispered, asking if she had ever heard of the legend of the carp leaping over the dragon gate. Lacthian replied immediately, "You mean the ultimate opportunity to change the fate of fish, where any species that passes through that gate will surely turn into a dragon." He offered sincere praise, "Worthy of being an outstanding lecturer at Manhwa Beast Taming University, your knowledge is truly vast and profound." She sighed wearily. "That has always only been a fairy tale. That mysterious gate evaporated many generations ago." He smirked confidently, "What if I assert that this fish has the ability to recreate the dragon gate itself?" She still shook her head vigorously in disbelief. "That sounds like nothing more than an unbelievable fantasy." Luck Vu turned around and walked away nonchalantly. "This shop is a fair trade with no coercion. Feel free to look elsewhere." No sooner had he finished speaking than she hurriedly called him back, saying she would take it. Luck Vu handed the small bottle to the female customer. Lacthian began the contract ritual. A fiery red energy burst forth, causing the little fish to be flung outside. She spoke to confirm the contract with the koi pet has succeeded. Glancing at the stats displayed on the screen, she breathed a sigh of relief, not expecting that everything would actually be true. Lacthian clearly showed astonishment and gratitude. "This treasure is indeed incredibly powerful." She bowed her head apologetically. "I am truly sorry for my rudeness earlier." Unfortunately, her dress strap suddenly snapped as she was bending over. Luck Vu blushed furiously and turned away, awkwardly stammering that he hadn't seen anything at all. A brief silence fell before Lacthian spoke in a whisper. Shopkeeper, could you do me one more favor? She shyly continued, there is a spare outfit in the car, please go out and get it for me. Without a moment's hesitation, Luck Vu immediately dashed outside. Don't worry, I'll go get it for you right away. At the same time, a vision appeared in Luck Vu's mind of a reporter reporting that the pet shop owner was accused of scamming customers and was about to be escorted away. He leaned against the car, panting, luckily I ran away as fast as I could, otherwise if she got angry and called the police it would be a huge disaster. Luck Vu muttered and quickly opened the trunk to get the clothes, telling himself, this must be the package. Immediately, he hugged the bag of clothes and ran as fast as he could back to his pet shop. A moment later, everything was settled, and Luck Vu sat leisurely sipping tea behind the reception counter. As soon as he opened his eyes, he heard Lacthian whispering her thanks. Luck Vu stood up abruptly and replied, no need to be polite. Do you have any plans for nurturing this koi yet? Hearing this, Lacthian fell into deep thought. The 3 pets I previously contracted with had metal, water, and wind attributes. She looked up at him with determination. This time I want to try a completely different attribute for it. With that, Lacthian took out a lightning attribute crystal and proposed to test it immediately. Without any hesitation, she dropped the crystal carrying electrical energy into the tank for the koi. The moment it came into contact with the new source of power, the fish immediately showed a strange reaction. The girl sensed the spreading vitality, paused for a moment, and was sure that this was indeed the Dragon Gate. Indeed, the legend was true. Just at this moment, the apocalyptic demon dragon suddenly appeared, causing this entire land to shake. The young man quickly regained his composure, gently advising the beast, be quiet now. Lu Qian exclaimed in surprise, why does the demon dragon have such a strange reaction? Is there something wrong? Lu Yu looked at the beast and said, it's fine, continue nurturing it. The girl replied yes. Next, Lu Qian focused her entire mind on practicing. Not long after, energy radiated everywhere, making the surrounding space much more brilliant. The young man looked up and observed carefully, the Dragon Gate has stabilized, now the brocade carp only needs to pass through to evolve. As soon as Lu Yu finished speaking, the girl urged, go brocade carp. Instinctively taking the command, it created a bubble around itself as a protective layer. The brocade carp slowly rose from the calm surface of the lake. After that, it kept heading straight forward. Just as the brocade carp stepped forward, its entire body was suddenly blocked. Witnessing this scene before her eyes, Lu Qian felt anxious. Why has it stopped? Will it fail? The young man explained, this Dragon Gate is formed from the talent of the brocade carp. Since you contracted with it, it needs help from its master like you. Lu Qian replied, I understand dragon power enhancement. Hearing this, Lu Yu's eyes flashed with curiosity. It seems I underestimated this girl. Meanwhile, Lu Qian persisted in nurturing her energy, focusing on the brocade carp. All the emitting energy quickly converged to a single point. Sensing the situation, it immediately struggled violently. The girl gathered all her strength. Brocade carp passed through. As expected, it successfully made it through. The brocade carp then passed through the gate. Just halfway through, Lu Qian immediately realized the brocade carp has succeeded. She smiled with satisfaction, thinking to herself, my beast-taming talent seems to be evolving. Lu Yu turned to her and said, after you contracted with the brocade carp, the two of you became one. When it successfully transforms into a dragon, your talent will also be upgraded accordingly. Just as he said this, Lu Qian's mind and body suddenly felt something different. Her entire body was enveloped by a new stream of energy. Oh my god. Lu Qian looked up at it and said loudly, this is the Red Thunder Flood Dragon. Then the system announced Red Thunder Flood Dragon, Continental Transcendent Level. Still a bit doubtful, she said, even though the Red Thunder Flood Dragon is very strong, this is not the ancient dragon worm. The young man smiled faintly, I run a very reputable business. The Red Thunder Flood Dragon is indeed not the ancient dragon worm, but the Flood Dragon worm. Lu Yu slowly stepped forward. The dragon family was inherently diverse, ranging from lizard-like ancient dragon types to wending snake-like flood dragons. Lu Qian approached to listen to his further explanation. Only if this creature reached the overlord threshold would it truly be a genuine dragon. The young man smiled brightly like the autumn sun. The dragon transformation service for the carp is at a promotional price of 5 million. Will you be paying by card or cash? She quickly pulled out her card to swipe and muttered to herself that she must slip away fast, lest the owner change his mind and demand more money. After collecting the money, he raised his voice and called out loudly, it's done, come out here quickly. Looking at the eager behavior of the demon dragon, Lu Yu asked with a wry smile, seeing others cross the dragon gate makes you anxious to evolve too. It whispered back, inside that dragon gate, the 1,000-year essence of both Eastern and Western dragons converges, helping me realize a new power. In the blink of an eye, the pupils of the world-ending demon dragon suddenly emitted a towering surge of murderous intent. Right then, he received a notification. The demon dragon had ascended to the first tier of the Holy Spirit rank, unlocking the Holy Dragon talent and a crimson skill set. Lu Yu scrolled through the status board and slightly smirked in satisfaction. Indeed, it was well worth the wait. Time passed quickly and the sunset gradually faded, giving way to a quiet night that enveloped the space. Lu Qian lay with her hand on her forehead in a daze. Everything felt like a dream, and she could hardly believe she actually owned a purebred dragon. While she was half asleep, there was a sudden, Rapid knock on the door? Who could be looking for her at this awkward hour? As soon as she opened the door slightly, her eyes widened in surprise. Teacher, what brings you to visit me so late? Tan Kwok did not answer directly but gently asked, is my visit at this hour disturbing your sleep? She quickly smiled and stepped aside to make way. Oh, it's no problem at all. Please come in and sit down to cool off, teacher. The old teacher looked at his student and asked affectionately, Lo Kian, did your first teaching session today go smoothly? She quickly replied, everything went very well. In particular, I discovered 2 outstanding talents who need your attention. Tan Kwok stroked his beard thoughtfully. Anyone who can make you praise them as a genius must indeed have something special about them. Lu Qian excitedly shared, those are 2 first-year male students, Shen Nianian and Du Rian. They possess pet beasts with extremely rare mature forms. Upon hearing that, the teacher suddenly paused. Are you saying that your students really have pet beasts with such special qualities? Tan Kwok urgently asserted, anyone who possesses a pet beast with such potential will, in the future, become at least a provincial governor or one of the nation's elite. She shrugged and continued, to be honest, teacher, I also just got a new pet beast from that shop. From an ordinary carp, it has now transformed into a monarch-tier creature. His ears rang with shock at the news he had just heard. What, you're not joking with me, are you? Tan Kwok could not suppress his curiosity and urged, where is it? Quick, summon it out here so I can have a look. Without any hesitation, Lu Qian chanted the summoning spell, Red Lightning Flood Dragon manifest before me. Instantly, an authoritative creature appeared, staring intently at the old teacher with a sharp, cold gaze. Tan Kwok cried out in shock, this is the legendary Flood Dragon. I heard they returned to the dragon realm long ago. How on earth did you find one? Trying to compose himself, he asked, wait, do you mean to say that all of these extraordinary beasts were bought from the very same shop? She nodded in confirmation and added, the prices are dirt cheap. I suspect that shop owner wants to train a generation of geniuses to manipulate the entire beast-taming world. Hearing this, Tan Kwok was stunned in surprise. Could such a strange thing really be true? She then asked, teacher, does an cis-rank beast tamer exist in this current era? The teacher immediately answered in a serious tone, currently, there is still no sign of anyone. Tan Kwok recounted that he heard the ancient beast-taming civilization was once completely wiped out by an cis-class transcendent. He pondered, if such a monstrous person were to reappear, it would bring unpredictable, consecutive disasters. Lac Thian hesitated, not knowing whether she should completely disclose the boss abilities to her teacher. She secretly feared that if her teacher misunderstood him to be a dangerous criminal and arrested him, it would cause huge trouble. Then Lac Thian forced a smile and suggested, I think you should send some talented young beast tamers to that mysterious shop to check it out. She rolled her eyes as she calculated, this way they could maintain harmony while also probing the opponent. Tan Kwok immediately nodded in agreement, let's go with the plan you just discussed. Early the next morning at the mysterious pet shop, a notification sounded, completing the mission of owning your first shop will reward a secret prize, progress 01 and needs confirmation. He stared intently at each word with a curious look. He quickly pulled out his phone. This task was too simple, as his current accumulated money was enough to take over this place. Luck Fu called the other party directly, Uncle Jiang, I want to buy out this property for 17 million, please consider it. The old man replied indifferently, no way, that's too low, let me run over there to discuss it directly first. Luck Fu's voice hardened, I've surveyed carefully, the highest price around here is only 15 million. Boss Jiang sneered, this kid is offering such a high price, he must be eager to buy, maybe I can squeeze a bit more out of him. Thinking so, the old man put on airs, no need to talk more, wait until I get there to figure it out. He angrily hung up and grumbled a few words, indeed, greedy nature cannot be changed. The scene outside was still as bustling and crowded as any other normal day. But those two had turned into a pet shop, so they no longer paid attention to their surroundings. Dongvu turned to look at his younger brother and asked softly, little brother, is this the mythical pet shop Grandpa mentioned? It looks so run down. As soon as he finished speaking, Taevu glared at him and scolded, what do you know? Hidden experts usually prefer quiet places. Just then, Luckvu stepped out and spoke warmly, what are you two looking for? Dongvu answered casually, we want to buy a pet, tell your shop owner to come out here quickly. Hearing that, his face froze like a statue, I am the owner, who else would it be? He widened his eyes in surprise, so young, I thought you were a part-time student, but before he could finish, Taevu covered his mouth. Finally, Dongvu had to sadly tell the truth in order to choose a desirable pet. Owner, please don't laugh, we are the grandchildren of the principal of the Beast Taming Academy, but unfortunately our talent is too poor. Luckvu felt the atmosphere was a bit awkward but calmly kept the conversation going. You two go ahead and explain, let me listen. As soon as he finished, he confessed everything. My ability is only B-rank growth speed enhancement, while Taevu is slightly better with a B-class annihilation talent that helps pets of wind-slashing strikes. As soon as Lu Yu finished listening, he understood them completely. There was no need for them to feel insecure, as with their strong growth potential, their pets could absolutely be raised in the explosive jar style. These words somewhat eased the pain in Dong Yu's heart. I've heard of the explosive jar style before, it sweeps through wherever it goes, and its destructive power is incredibly terrifying. He then turned to encourage Siyu to help him pull himself together. As for you, our guest, you are very suited for pet strains with extreme destructive power. Hearing this, he also nodded since he had long thought about this direction. I think the same, but I just haven't been able to find a suitable battle pet. A moment later, Lu Yu leisurely set the empty jar down in front of the two of them. He even calmly told them to just choose these two and they would be good to go. Dongyu looked around the jar, completely bewildered and utterly confused. He thought something was wrong with his eyes and asked repeatedly, "No way, where is my pet? Where is my legendary explosive jar army?" Siyu, standing next to him, also started to get impatient. That's right, where on earth is the pet after all? Lu Yu calmly guided them. Look closely, both of you. The pets are right here in this jar. The two of them looked at each other in doubt, not understanding what trick he was playing. Only by straining their eyes to look very closely did they discover that they were ants. Dongyu still couldn't believe his eyes because it didn't look like a powerful pet at all, while Siyu was also skeptical. What's so special about these two tiny ants that you're making such a big deal out of them? Lu Yu smiled and explained in detail. That's right, these two ants have awakened a rare talent called sculpture. According to him, they were extremely miraculous. As long as the correct evolution path was loaded, they could transform into any shape desired. Lu Yu also thoughtfully added, I have already engraved the evolution path inside, both of you should check it out. Hearing this, both of them could not hide their curiosity and wanted to experience it right away. Dongyu looked at his palm in a daze. Can mine really evolve into an imperial mother, producing terrifying units like the demon god or the army breaker ants? Siyu was not doing any better, and mine will evolve into the sky-rending ant, truly possessing the power to tear the sky apart. Satisfied with the purchase they received, they sincerely thanked the shop owner in unison. He only gently advised them, take good care of them, that is the best way to repay me. As soon as the customers left, Lu Yu was pleased with his carefully arranged plan. Soon, these chess pieces would become a force that would shake the entire blue planet. While immersed in this bright future prospect, the ringing of his phone pulled him back to reality. Sensing that it was something important, Lu Yu did not hesitate and answered immediately. On the other end of the line, the cunning boss was shouting, I've arrived at the shop. Come out and greet me quickly. Lu Yu calmly replied, just come on in, I am right inside here. This attitude made him fly into a rage, yelling, I told you to come out and welcome me. Can't you understand human language? Do you still want to buy the shop or what? Lu Yu maintained a firm attitude. I already told you to come in by yourself. Don't make me repeat it. Being hung up on abruptly, the cunning boss roared in anger, Lu Yu, don't think I don't have leverage over you. As he walked, he muttered curses, a college dropout who isn't even a beast tamer, and yet he dares to act high and mighty with me. However, his feet continued to walk straight through the door. The old man muttered curses under his breath, so you want to take over this shop, huh? Fine, go ahead. He didn't even bother to care that Lu Vu had a guest, but instead shouted and demanded 30 million, warning that he wouldn't accept a penny less. Dongvu was infuriated by such an eyesore. You greedy old pig, have you gone senile from money hunger? This shop is worth 15 million at most. Yet, the old man stubbornly insisted, this is my shop, I can set whatever price I want. Having said that, the stingy shop owner curled his lip in contempt. If you don't have the money, get out. Hearing this, Dongvu turned purple with rage. What right does someone like you have to talk to Master Lu like that? Tevu was equally annoyed. How about we teach him a lesson? A scoundrel like him isn't even worth getting our hands dirty. Luvu calmly replied, don't disturb the neighbors. As soon as he finished speaking, he called out loudly, Uncle Tran. The shop owner, oblivious to the gravity of the situation, retorted, it doesn't matter who you call, I'm a master of martial arts. No one in this neighborhood can beat me. To his surprise, he was struck by a thunderous slap the next second when Uncle Tran lifted him off the ground by his collar with one hand, saying, how dare you be disrespectful to my young master. After a while, Uncle Tran dropped him to the ground and turned to ask for instructions. Young master, how should we deal with this guy? Tevu gave a firm order, teach him a lesson he'll never forget so he learns to curb his arrogance. Receiving the order from his young master, Uncle Tran shouted, yes sir. Despite the shop owner struggling desperately, he yelled, let me go. Do you know who I am? I have very powerful backing. No sooner had he finished speaking than Dongvu curiously asked back, backing, you say, have you ever heard of the Don family? Upon hearing that name, the old man's face turned deathly pale. The Don family. Could it be the beast-taming clan that dominates the Han Kingdom? Immediately, he received a nod of confirmation. You hit the nail on the head. Tevu coldly waved his hand. Uncle Tran, toss him out. Only then did the shop owner realize the trouble he was in, crying bitterly, please spare me. I know my place now, please have mercy. Soon after, Tevu turned and said, if you want to acquire this shop, why not let us handle it? Hearing this, he felt a wave of relief and replied, all right, then I'll trouble you both. Time drifted by until dusk fell. While he was busy tidying up, Lu Vu's phone suddenly rang. It turned out to be a message from Tevu after the negotiation. Dear Master Lu, after a friendly chat with Mr. Jiang, he has agreed to gift this shop to you for free, along with the transfer papers. Don Tevu. At that very moment, the system lit up and announced, congratulations, host, you have successfully unlocked your first pet shop. Naturally, Lu Vu would receive a New Year as starter gift, a resource reward, the Domain Essence Crystal. His eyes lit up at the thought of such a massive windfall. The domain essence crystal was a supreme treasure of blue star, capable of merging with a beast-taming space to create a miniature world. No one understood the value of that stone better than Lu Vu. Any Beastmaster who possessed a space in the form of a nascent world would reach demigod power. The system prompt echoed again. Host, you can now begin refining the crystal to expand your territory. Lu Vu replied firmly, let's do it. At that very moment, Lu Vu began connecting to it to pioneer an entirely new space. Seeing that grand scene, he kept his mouth wide open, praising it endlessly, calling it truly the peak of perfection. Lu Yu remained immersed in his own pink world, clearly sensing the terrifying surge of energy swirling in this place. Before long, the warm sunlight rose high, illuminating the entire space. Standing and admiring it for a long time, he secretly thought that this was the primal source of this universe. Right next to Lu Yu, the figure of the world-destroying demonic dragon suddenly appeared in a majestic and awe-inspiring manner. Watching his beloved pet grow second by second filled his heart with joy. That dragon had already broken through 3 levels of the starry rank. Even the purple flame emperor eagle was evolving endlessly, and this purple firebird had already breached the 2nd level of the mysterious star rank. The system beside him continuously flattered and praised him, congratulating the host for helping the world-destroying demonic dragon comprehend the red star level skill Dragon Realm Reflection, while the purple flame emperor eagle now possessed heavenly flame desolation, also at the red star level. Immediately after, Lu Yu got his hands on a new toy, and the system spat out a bunch of detailed parameters about this move. Dragon Realm Reflection is a red star level skill that can summon the silhouette of the dragon world to overwhelm opponents. Whoever comprehends the origin of the dragon clan will make that silhouette even more overbearing, and if they successfully understand it completely, it would be like embracing the entire dragon realm. The more Lu Yu heard, the more thrilled he became, knowing he was about to reach the peak of glory. If such a terrifying move was only at the red star level, he did not dare to imagine how monstrous the demonic dragon would become in the future. A moment later, he whipped around to look at the purple flame emperor eagle and said, let's see what your ability is like. Heavenly Flame Desolation is a red star rank move with the ability to call down endless flames of the supreme heavens to pour straight onto the ground. Hearing this, his heart blossomed with joy. With a sea of fire blanketing the sky like that, its power was no different from a legendary forbidden spell, so how could anyone underestimate it? Not long after, their group gradually made their way back to Lu Yu's familiar pet shop. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed as he caught a completely unfamiliar energy frequency, wondering who could be so daring. Just as the thought crossed his mind, a figure leaning on a cane walked slowly through the door. Looking closely, it turned out to be none other than Duan Xiangguo, calling out shopkeeper Lu in a familiar voice. Seeing his old acquaintance visiting, Lu Yu warmly smiled and asked Principal Duan what wind blew you here today. In his heart, he had no intention of harboring any animosity toward this old man. Just seeing that he dared to send his own grandchild to his shop to buy a pet was enough to show that the other party was a friend, not an enemy. Despite this, no matter how much Lu Yu racked his brain, he could not guess what on earth this old man's purpose was for coming here. Based on what he sharply observed, this visit was by no means simple. This shopkeeper Lu carried a towering killing intent that was even more terrifying than the demon kings he had encountered. Although his exterior seemed calm and composed, the aura he radiated was extremely gentle, showing absolutely no resemblance to the demeanor of a cold-blooded demon. It was precisely because of this that he knew this figure was no ordinary person. It seemed this was a profound and unpredictable expert, and such a formidable person must be drawn to the Han Nation's side at all costs. At this moment, Xianggu slowly spoke up, saying, I came here today because I have a small favor to ask of you, startling him with the sudden thought. Could he also be here to buy a pet? However, he politely but firmly declined, saying, no, after so many years of high-intensity battles on the battlefield, my beast-taming space is almost completely shattered and can no longer be restored, which of course means saying goodbye to any chance of contracting young pets. Those words immediately made Lu Yu freeze before asking back, Principal Duan, who on earth gave you the idea that if a beast-taming space is shattered, you can raise pets anymore? Meanwhile, Xianggu was wide-eyed with confusion upon hearing this, thinking, isn't this an obvious truth that has existed for thousands of years, clearly printed in black and white even in high school textbooks? Suddenly realizing that there was something off about the previous statement, the old man involuntarily stared and asked eagerly, shopkeeper, do you perhaps have a better idea? Lu Yu curled his lips into a light smile and replied nonchalantly, it's a piece of cake, it's just a tiny bit of damage to the beast-taming space, what's there to worry about? He then reached into his spatial bag and pulled out a small box containing a few strange seeds. Lu Yu gently opened the small box, skillfully inviting Principal Duan to admire what was inside. Principal Duan focused all his attention on the object, analyzed it intently for a moment, and then realized what it was. The old man exclaimed in surprise, identifying it as the seed of a grave prosperity tree, a bottom-tier plant-type pet. Lu Yu beamed and added that this seed had awakened a unique talent, allowing it to imprint every evolutionary path into its very marrow and blood vessels. He activated the box to project a holographic diagram, then politely invited the teacher to look over the evolutionary path he had personally designed for him. Glancing at it, Principal Duan was stunned and exclaimed in amazement, from the grave prosperity tree to the floating tree, the void tree, and finally the top-tier void-suppressing giant tree. The young man smiled and listed a series of benefits, explaining that once nurtured into a void-suppressing giant tree, this entity would help him restore and stabilize his shattered beast-taming space. He further emphasized that all the anxieties that had weighed heavily on him for so long would completely vanish, which truly moved Principal Duan deeply. The old man pondered for a moment before sighing sadly, saying that while he appreciated the shop owner's kind heart, he truly dared not use it. A look of indescribable sorrow appeared on Principal Duan's face as he refused, explaining that he had lost the ability to form contracts with pets. This took Lu Yu by surprise, and he promptly asked for the reason. Deep down, he felt a wave of irritation, thinking to himself that he had gone to great lengths to obtain the grave prosperity tree and program the perfect evolutionary path, only to have the old man dismiss it so easily. Principal Duan opened up with deep emotion, saying that over the past few decades, he had personally sent 9 pet companions to the gates of death, standing between the fate of the Xia kingdom and them. He had never chosen to save them. He continued in a somber tone, stating that even though he could form a new contract to reverse his fate, doing so would be too unfair and cruel to the creatures that had followed him. The old man then shared his thoughts, saying that a precious seed with such extraordinary potential should rightfully belong to talented young beast tamers instead. Lu Yu thought to himself that if it were anyone else being so stubborn, he would have shown them the door. But he could not bring himself to be harsh with this respected principal. Looking back in time, the old man had sacrificed so much blood and bone for the rise of the Xia kingdom since the inter-realm portals first opened. Among the 6 most powerful nations at the time, the Xia kingdom had the weakest military strength and thus immediately became a sacrificial lamb, bearing the brunt of the first wave of attacks. Facing imminent destruction and the ruin of their homes, the Xia imperial court desperately built 5 fortified defensive walls right on the alien battlefield. Ironically, the first line of defense collapsed within 3 years, the second held on for less than 2 years, the third lasted a year, and the fourth was flattened in less than 6 months. With the nation teetering on the brink of collapse, every beast tamer was ordered by general mobilization to don their armor and head into the jaws of death on the alien front line. Shouldering the responsibilities of the supreme commander of the Xia borders, General Duan had no reason to shirk such a heavy duty. Throughout decades of war, he had formed bonds of fate with 10 monarch-level beasts, yet all 9 of his companions had fallen on the blood-soaked battlefield. The 9-fold shock of his pet contracts shattering had ravaged General Duan's beast-taming space to the point of complete ruin, leaving it in unrecognizable shape. It was not that he was incapable of seeking a new contract, but that no creature could possibly survive in such a shattered and fragmented beast-taming space. Returning to the present, Lu Yu thought to himself that standing before such a respected hero, he truly could not bear to see him sink into eternal solitude and despair. He then spoke in a warm, comforting voice, telling the principal not to torment himself, as the pressure on the front lines back then was unbearable, and he had no other choice. Principal Duan stared down at the floor and sighed with self-reproach, saying that the alien battlefield was a place where life was uncertain, and he was only fortunate enough to survive and gain some empty fame. Closing his wrinkled eyes, he lamented sadly that countless compatriots had remained forever in that foreign land, and now, no one even remembered their names. Lu Yu rubbed his chin in deep thought, then interrupted softly, "Principal Duan, the torment that has weighed on you for so long actually stems from only one reason." The Chancellor could not hide his curiosity. He intently questioned Luck Fu about the reason behind those words. He gave a calm smile and replied that the reason was very simple. It was because he was still not strong enough. Luck Fu analyzed in detail that if he were capable enough to make the myriad races of all realms tremble, the Han nation would not have to pay with blood and bones. The Chancellor stroked his beard and smiled bitterly, thinking that his great beast-taming talent had exhausted his potential, leaving him stuck at the 10th stage of the Overlord rank for a long time. Luck Fu casually asked if he knew that having a void-shaking giant tree in his beast-taming space would make breaking through as easy as turning over his hand. He revealed the secret that the tree could also draw power from the void to actively expand the beast-taming space. At that point, he would have more than enough power to protect those he cherished, leaving the Chancellor stunned by the scenario he had just heard. He suddenly snapped out of it and laughed mockingly at himself, saying that he was old, yet his mind was not as sharp as a young man like him. The Chancellor quickly put the seed away and said that if that was the case, he should name his price and he would buy it immediately. Luck Fu happily handed the box to him with a friendly price of 3 million. The system suddenly sent a notification congratulating the host on completing the achievement of selling a total of 10 battle pets. It went on to announce the next reward, which was an Cis-grade beast-taming talent named Divine Source of Life. The system explained that this was a supreme life attribute talent, and possessing it would repel all illnesses and painful deaths. The Chancellor excitedly proposed to the shop owner that he would follow the instructions to evolve the seed and then sign a contract with it. The Chancellor walked over to the wooden table and carefully set the battle pet box down. He began to channel energy into the box and then shouted loudly, "Evolve." The seed inside immediately emitted an incredibly powerful aura. At this point, the Chancellor's beast-taming space was nothing but a desolate and ruined wasteland. Luck Fu stood and watched the principal plant the seed into that barren land. Just upon touching the ground, the seed began to spread abundant energy throughout the space. The root system began to sprout, and the trunk also quickly grew and stood tall. Completing the growth process, the tiny seed had transformed into a void-shaking giant tree with the mighty potential of a 10th-stage overlord. The Chancellor approached the giant tree in astonishment, wondering how the speed of evolution could be so amazing. He placed his hand on the tree trunk and began to perform the solemn contracting ritual. The roots began to stretch out and transform in a strange way. They intertwined, wrapping around the small, scattered patches of land lying disjointedly around. Then they pulled them all together to merge into a solid mass with the mainland. The Chancellor was so astonished that he opened his eyes wide to see that his beast-taming space had indeed been restored. Luck Fu smiled warmly to congratulate the principal, and then took his leave to depart from this space. Suddenly, the Chancellor hurriedly called after him, telling shop owner Lu to wait a moment. The young man suddenly paused, scratching his head in bewilderment, wondering what else that respected principal was plotting. Who would have thought he would suddenly toss out a tempting question, asking if Mr. Lu would like to visit the magic capital Beast-Taming University. Memories of his college rejection letter from 2 months ago flooded back, making him emotional. Life is truly like a dream, having failed his exams back then only to be personally courted by the big boss of the Magic Capital Academy now. Sensing something was off, he bluntly and politely declined, saying that while the school is excellent, he dared not accept the offer. The young man flashed his signature smile and skillfully explained that his pet shop was thriving, and suddenly becoming a student would ruin his entire get-rich plan. However, Mr. Xingu quickly waved his hand to clarify. Mr. Lu, you have misunderstood me. Who would force you to study? I want to invite you to join us as a professor. He then whispered softly that although the professorship requires some tedious paperwork, for now he could temporarily take on the role of an instructor. Hearing that impressive title, he began to weigh his options, as such a professorship is usually reserved for those at the sovereign level. Seeing the young man fall silent, the principal eagerly added that if he was dissatisfied, he would negotiate with the board to grant him the seat of vice principal instead. To add weight to the invitation, he even made a grand gesture, declaring that he would resign entirely to make room for him. Hearing that, the young man's resolve began to waver significantly. It would be a lie to say he wasn't tempted, but he knew that free cheese is only found in a mousetrap. He quickly and pragmatically calculated that if he pinned the label of a Magic Capital Academy professor to his chest, he would have no trouble making sales in the future. Once he had thought it through, he nodded in agreement, with the condition that his teaching schedule must be flexible so as not to interfere with his shop's business. The principal was as happy as if he had found gold, nodding eagerly to seal the deal immediately. He patted his shoulder with a radiant, meaningful smile, adding that once the paperwork was finished, he would be free to apply for scientific research funding from the budget. At this moment, Lu Yu's head was filled with images of flying banknotes. Even the smallest research project would be worth hundreds of millions, and it could even reach tens of billions of dong. He began to daydream about sleeping on a mountain of money, along with the generous salary and benefits that prestigious school would send him every month. Not to mention the vast treasury of martial arts manuals in the school library, and the series of exclusive training grounds, which made him shiver with excitement just thinking about it. He silently smiled bitterly at his ironic fate. The person who had failed back then was now preparing to stand on the podium of a top-tier academy. Life truly is unpredictable. As night fell and draped over the campus of the Magic Capital Academy, Li Qian leaned against the balcony and muttered to herself, "By now, the teacher must have met that shop owner. I wonder if everything went smoothly." Suddenly, a strange phenomenon caught her attention, leaving her astounded. Right at the school gate, a strange spark suddenly flared up. It was a brilliant evolutionary aura. At the same time, Dongyu was fiddling with a small ant in his hand, leaving Xu standing behind him, curious about what his brother was up to. Seeing the ant emit a faint flow of energy, he casually replied, "That's obvious, why ask? I am planning to fuse my innate power with the queen ant." The young man grinned and explained further that by doing so, both sides would benefit greatly, and the level-up speed would be as fast as the wind. Upon hearing this, Sai Yu anxiously tried to dissuade him, saying that by doing this, he was cutting off his own retreat, as he would be unable to capture other pets in the future. Not to mention that if the queen ant were to suffer any harm, he would also become an ordinary person. Contrary to that anxiety, Dongyu just laughed heartily and said, "If there comes a day when this combat companion sacrifices itself, I would have no regrets about becoming powerless." Watching from afar, Li Qian could not help but admire him, never expecting that the seemingly naive Dongyu possessed such remarkable enlightenment. Suddenly, an imposing voice echoed from afar, praising, "My grandson-in-law of Xianggo is truly excellent," causing her to jump and turn her head sharply to look. Tuang Quoc returned with a radiant appearance, making Lac Thian worryingly remind him, "Teacher, please walk slowly, or it might affect your health." He laughed out loud and replied that thanks to the blessing of shop owner Luck, his body was now more energetic than ever. She astutely noticed it immediately and asked if his beast-taming space had been healed. Tuang Quoc could not hide his smugness as he replied, "Indeed, can you guess how he did it?" Lacthian speculated a series of possibilities and replied, could it be that he used a rare resource to restore that space? However, he shook his head and said, wrong. He only guided me to form a contract with a tree. He excitedly showed everyone a giant ancient tree that was growing vigorously in his space. Tuang Quoc explained that this was the space-stabilizing giant tree which had mended the cracks in his beast-taming space, and before long he would soon regain his golden age. He laughed heartily and added, everyone rest assured, because a monarch-level beast-tamer can live up to 500 years, so I still have plenty of time, 300 years to roam free. Seeing her teacher so high-spirited, Lacthian breathed a sigh of relief and praised, this is indeed wonderful news. Tuang Quoc suddenly remembered and shared with everyone that he had invited shop owner Luck to become a lecturer at Mado University, and soon they would be colleagues. Hearing that, she exclaimed joyfully, is that really true, teacher? His 2 grandchildren were equally excited, scrambling to say, the shop owner is going to be a lecturer. Then I must enroll in his class. I want to be taught by him too. The next day, Luck Fu was meditatively concentrating his spiritual energy. Above his head, 3 streams of 5-colored light appeared, while the world-destroying demonic dragon and the purple flame emperor bird watched intently from opposite him. He frowned and thought, realizing that possessing 3 cis-grade talents, but only using them to channel power to nurture pets was indeed a waste. Luck Fu put his hand to his chin and thought to himself that perhaps he should learn from what dragon tamers often do, which is directly merging a talent with the corresponding pet. While looking at the world-destroying demonic dragon, he envisioned the scenario of allowing it to fully merge with the dark abyss to become a true lord of darkness. Turning to the purple flame emperor bird, he thought of another plan. If it were to merge with the god-slaying heavenly fire, the power of the god of fire would surely and gradually be within its grasp. He pondered for a moment because his 3rd talent slot was still empty. Perhaps it was time to find another companion through a contract. Instantly, he opened the system panel and saw that his accumulated points had reached 1 Zalo 2, which was even more abundant than before. Luck Fu excitedly thought that with this many points, he could easily exchange them for a pet even more powerful than his current 2, causing the demonic dragon and the emperor bird standing nearby to cry out in disgruntled protest. While searching, he considered that choosing a plant type would be more optimal, as it was both compatible with the life talent and supported the strengthening of the beast-taming space. The system immediately replied with a list of plant-type pets priced at first 200 points, which included the following names. He swiped his finger across the control panel and read aloud each option, including the Elven Mother Tree, the Astral Clear Tree, the Giant War Tree, and the Ancient Tree of Life. Luck Fu thoughtfully analyzed that the Elven Mother Tree, upon reaching maturity, is a 3rd-tier Holy Spirit and the ancestor of the elves, capable of creating an entire race if enough resources are spent. Thinking of this, he quickly brushed it aside because the elven race had now dwindled, and investing in it would bring little practical benefit. Luck Fu considered another option. The Astral Clear Tree also reached the 3rd-tier Holy Spirit with the ability to restore spiritual energy to the planet, but unfortunately it would not help much with his cultivation path. He further calculated the Giant War Tree. This species could produce a vast army of monster trees and turn the chaos of the battlefield into nutrients to nourish itself. Thinking of this, he shuddered with goosebumps. This brutal combat style went completely against the image of the gentle gentleman he was pursuing. Luck Fu focused on the final choice on the system panel, which was the Ancient Tree of Life, a species naturally and perfectly compatible with the law of life. He muttered that wherever the Ancient Tree of Life was present, death would be repelled, turning barren lands into a paradise full of vitality. Lu Yu did not hesitate to click the redeem button on the information panel. This item matched his 3rd talent perfectly, so he decided to choose it right away. The system announcement immediately rang out, congratulating the host on owning the pet Ancient Tree of Life baby. First 200 points were deducted from the account, leaving a current balance of 0. As soon as the words ended, dozens of data streams danced continuously before his eyes. In the blink of an eye, a tiny seed appeared, emitting a soothing green spiritual energy glow. He secretly marveled that the Ancient Tree of Life truly lived up to its reputation, as even its seed was so bursting with vitality. Lu Yu smiled slightly and gave the command, display the talent of the Ancient Tree of Life. The system's detailed data panel for the baby tree immediately appeared, fully displaying everything from its basic stats, level, and potential to its health status. He scrutinized the innate skill of this pet. With just a small amount of resources, it could summon creatures of equivalent strength, a trick no different from the legendary spell of scattering beans to create soldiers. Lu Yu moved on to study the first move. The Ancient Tree of Life had the ability to make plants grow rapidly in the blink of an eye, and he praised it highly, thinking this red star grade crop stimulation skill was truly a treasure for gardeners. Rubbing his chin and calculating, on the current black market, silver or gold grade miraculous fruits already cost several $100,000, and for the premium diamond grade ones, no one would even sell them without at least 10 million. Lu Yu closed his eyes, imagining using this move to force ripen an entire orchard of precious fruits, the sudden prospect of wealth making him ecstatic. Lu Yu looked at the second move, named Land of Life, which created a domain filled with abundant vitality to heal all injuries for anyone inside. He nodded, thinking this healing skill seemed extremely effective. He scrutinized the third skill, Ancient Tree Avatar, which allowed the main body to create an illusion in the outside world with any appearance, with the strongest illusion capable of perfectly copying the original's power. He analyzed that this meant the avatar could still fight fiercely even outside the summoning space. Lu Yu glanced down at the last line on the stats panel. The ultimate move was named Star Slashing Grass, which sounded very cool and aggressive, though its actual destructive power remained to be seen. The detailed description of this skill immediately appeared. Star Slashing Grass could cultivate a symbiotic plant of the same name, which upon reaching the highest realm, could even slash down the moon and stars in the sky. After reading it, Lu Yu's eyes widened in astonishment. It was truly worth spending his precious 1,200 points to bring it home. It was incredibly overpowered. He was incredibly amazed because, right from birth, it already possessed 4 top-tier skills, allowing it to act as a versatile support, charge into battle, and even produce its own materials. Lu Yu quickly extended his hand toward the ancient tree seed and shouted the contract command. Instantly, a surge of abundant energy enveloped it. Just a moment later, the soul contract was complete and brilliant emerald light radiated from the center of the seed. A pair of delicate young leaves quickly sprouted, making the halo of light surrounding it shine even brighter. Suddenly, the tiny seed grew rapidly into a giant tree with lush foliage that covered a corner of the sky. This was the true form of the ancient tree of life. Lu Yu's chest suddenly throbbed rapidly, causing him to freeze for a few seconds in confusion, not understanding what was happening. Lu Yu clenched his fists and gasped in surprise. He had barely settled into his new promotion to star level tier 10, yet now there were signs that he was about to break through again. At that very moment, a clear voice echoed in his ear, "Master." Next, the figure of a small girl appeared right at the top of the tree canopy. Her entire body was shrouded in a thin, soft green mist. Lu Yu's eyes widened confusion as he wondered if this adorable child could actually be the avatar transformed from the ancient tree of life itself. The description panel immediately appeared. This was indeed the avatar of the ancient tree, possessing all the strength of the main body and having the privilege to travel freely between the two worlds. Lu Yu hurriedly asked in succession, "Are you the embodiment of the ancient tree of life?" The little girl gently landed in front of him and nodded in agreement. "Yes, it's me." Immediately after, she politely introduced herself. "From now on, please call me Yu, Master." Lu Yu stared at the little one for a moment and repeated with curiosity, "Your name is Yu." And Vu gently extended her tiny pinky finger toward him, coaxing the leader to give her his hand. He did as he was told, and instantly, a band of azure energy tightly wrapped around their hands, making him curious about what kind of strange pact this was. The little girl smiled, raised her hand high, and said she would keep a bit of this energy so she could use it to save his life again in case he met with disaster. Skeptical about her ability to resurrect him, he received a nod of confirmation, though she confessed she could not restore his trio of super training talents. Her face showed a hint of anxiety as she added that if he were resurrected, he could easily become an ordinary mortal without any superpowers. He kept silent and thought to himself that if he were to come back to life but lose those 3 top-tier training skills, he would rather sleep peacefully underground. He could only laugh it off and console himself, considering it as if he had just been given a free life insurance policy. He gently patted the little girl's head and told her to get used to her new power, promising to bring her the seeds of the divine tree tomorrow to plant them as a test. Hearing this, the little girl excitedly agreed immediately with her guardian. Looking at her adorable behavior, he waved goodbye and prepared to leave first. Just as he was about to turn and take a step, his hem was suddenly grabbed tightly by that tiny hand. The girl hesitantly asked if she could leave her main body residing in the protective zone while her small shadow followed him out to play. He happily nodded in agreement, easing her worries, as she had already merged with that protective land and could enter or leave whenever she pleased. But her next words left him dumbfounded, unable to understand what she meant by implying that their lifestyles were a bit different. As darkness fell and the bright moon shone into the room while he was fast asleep, he suddenly felt a strange creature snuggling under his blanket. Startled awake, he quickly pulled back the blanket only to find the little girl curled up inside, leaving him frozen in shock for a few seconds. He immediately understood the deeper meaning behind the girl's words from earlier that day, staring blankly at the one who was nonchalantly occupying a corner of his bed. Her face turned red as she explained that she had suffered from loneliness in the form of a tree sprout for 10,000 years, so she was truly terrified of being alone. The little girl timidly begged him not to chase her away, promising to be extremely well behaved and not disturb his sleep at all. Hearing those pitiful words, he patted her head to comfort her, telling her to be at ease because from now on she would always have a companion and never be alone again. The little girl excitedly pressed her hand against his chest, nodding gently as if she fully understood her guardian's heart. As dawn knocked on the door of the new day, the early morning sunlight filtered through the window, bringing a very warm atmosphere that heated up the room. However, he found himself in a laughable yet tearful situation as the little girl choked him tightly and rested her leg on his chest, suffocating him so much that his face turned completely pale. After a while, he tried to open his bloodshot eyes due to severe sleep deprivation. Unable to endure this torture any longer, he proceeded to pry the little girl off him. He directly lifted her up while she was still deep in her sleep, making her wake up startled and bewildered. He held her and set her down on the ground while she was still struggling fiercely, wondering what on earth the leader was trying to do with her. He then dropped her with a thud onto a nearby armchair, making her jump and cry out in complaint. He scolded her quietly in annoyance, saying they had agreed she wouldn't move around, and that he had almost gone to see his ancestors due to lack of oxygen. Hearing the scolding, she immediately shrank back, sat up properly, and playfully stuck out her tongue to apologize, explaining that she had only accidentally hugged him a bit too tightly. To make amends, the little girl repeatedly promised to be more careful next time and absolutely never do it again so he wouldn't have to worry. He nodded magnanimously and said, "All right, I won't hold a grudge. Now let's go into the space and see how that ancient tree is developing." Seeing Lu Yu finally back down, the little girl gleefully jumped up and down, nodding in agreement immediately. He suddenly felt his head spin, not knowing whether he was signing a contract with a wood element spiritual beast or adopting a little princess. When they arrived, a few stalks of star slasher grass were gently swaying in rhythm right beneath the base of the ancient tree of life. Lu Yu gently rubbed his chin and thought, since birth, and Yu had brought with her 10 stalks of star slasher grass, and each of them had already reached the 10th level of the extraordinary rank. He did some quick math in his head. As long as the ancient tree of life upgraded to a new rank, the accompanying star slasher grass would surely break through right along with it. Lu Yu thought to himself, who would dare claim the tree of life lacks combat capability? Just the symbiotic star slasher grass alone is enough to unleash a terrifying, sweeping power. He looked up at the towering ancient tree and murmured, "I am afraid that even if a divine dragon or an ancient phoenix appeared, they wouldn't dare boast of a guaranteed victory." Just as he finished speaking, a flurry of vines began to rise vigorously and stretch out in all directions. They competed to grow like wildfire, quickly transforming into incredibly colossal entities. Witnessing this scene, Lu Yu burst into amused laughter and exclaimed, "So this is the heavenly star vine, capable of imprisoning everything in the world." And Yu looked a bit hesitant and turned to explain, "Master, with my current strength, I can only create platinum-tier spiritual herb seeds. If you want a better kind, it will take a long time to wait." Lu Yu patted her head to reassure her, "That's a small matter. For seeds ranging from platinum and diamond to purple crystal or red crystal, I'll just bring money and buy them directly to save time." He excitedly added, "Why waste our precious energy on something that can be resolved with money?" Then both of them turned to leave and Lu Yu waved, saying, "Let's go, I'll take you out for a stroll, and we can quickly sort out the matter of those seeds while we re-add it." Before long, Lu Yu and Yu appeared in the middle of a bustling shopping street, the little girl trailing behind him while curiously looking around. Standing in front of a stall displaying all kinds of things, Lu Yu couldn't help but marvel. It truly is the most bustling city, nothing is missing. And Yu looked up at him and whispered, "Master, this place is so crowded." Lu Yu immediately instructed, "Stick close to me or you'll get lost." A moment later, he brought the little girl to a large shop that specialized in providing all kinds of colorful exotic flowers and rare herbs. Lu Yu glanced at the price list of these plants and thought to himself, the raw seeds are dirt cheap, but once a plant is well nurtured, the price surges to millions of dollars. The difference is truly enormous. He frowned slightly and thought, even so, planting seeds was by no means simple because their germination and survival rates were extremely low. Just a second later, Lu Yu wore a confident smile. However, with the miraculous power of the ancient tree of life in his possession, worrying about the seeds dying young was completely redundant. Having thought it through, he quickly waved over the shopkeeper, "Boss, give me 1,000 seeds of each type: extreme yin grass, gloom spirit fruit, red flame flower, and white fire flower." Lu Yu also ordered a few more items in addition. "Please get me 100 seeds of both the hell tree and the purgatory tree as well." Hearing the customer's generous order, the shopkeeper smiled so widely his eyes narrowed into slits, and he hastily replied, "Please wait a moment, valued customer." In a flash, he laboriously carried out a case, placed it in front of Lu Yu, and said with a warm smile, "Your total bill is 32,100,000. I'll waive the change and charge you exactly 32 million. He nodded slightly to indicate he understood and asked further, "Oh, by the way, I heard that consultants of the Magic Capital Academy receive a discount, is that right?" Hearing this, the boss eagerly confirmed, "That is absolutely correct, sir. Just present your ID card or relevant documents, and the shop's computer will automatically apply the discount code for you right away." Lu Yu took out his card, handed it over, and replied succinctly, "Then here it is." The boss hastily took the card and turned around to enter the information for a quick search on the store's computer. As soon as his information popped up on the screen, he froze, exclaiming in amazement, "My goodness, so young and yet already a full professor at the prestigious Mado University." The owner looked Lu Yu over, secretly admiring this outstanding young man. Hearing that, and Yu lifted her chin proudly, saying that of course it was, because her boss was always number one. He casually held out his bank card to him, asking him to process the payment. Lu Yu excitedly carried the bags, having never expected the school board to approve his appointment as a full-time lecturer so lightning fast. Right at that moment, and Yu discovered something strange. The little girl gently tugged on Lu Yu's shirt hem and pointed to a corner of the room, whispering that she had just sniffed out a highly rare amethyst-grade spiritual herb seed. Hearing this, his eyes widened in surprise, and Yu quickened her pace toward where her intuition led, murmuring that it must be around here. She excitedly opened her small hand holding a few seeds, cheering because she had found them. And Yu then turned to ask the shopkeeper how much this basket of seeds cost. The owner looked at the dry seeds and advised her gently, "My dear, these are completely withered and cannot be planted. Are you sure you want to buy them?" And Yu flashed a bright smile and nodded firmly, "I've decided to buy them, sir." The owner scratched his head and thought to himself that although these were seeds of the valuable amethyst-grade space plant, they had withered and died long ago, and he had originally planned to throw them in the trash anyway. He silently observed the pile of seeds in the child's hand. A moment later, he cheerfully waved his hand and said, "Oh well, just take them. I'll give them to you for free." Hearing this, Yu jumped up and down with joy, repeatedly thanking the owner for his kindness. Standing behind and hearing the whole story, Lu Yu was thrilled. These seeds were as valuable as diamond-grade treasures, so getting them for free couldn't be better. After finishing shopping for the necessary items, the two of them quickly returned to the area of the ancient tree of life. He began to dig the soil and sow the seeds. The next step was to cover them with soil so they could take root. Miraculously, in just a blink of an eye, the young sprouts raced to grow into all kinds of lush green plants. They both excitedly admired the results, and thanks to the abundant life force from the ancient tree, they were sure that a bountiful harvest was just around the corner. He stroked the tender young leaves, silently calculating that once the plants bloomed and bore fruit, they would bring a huge profit, and most importantly, he would no longer have to worry about food for his two legendary beasts. At that very moment, a shout from afar caught Lu Yu's attention, asking if anyone was home. He wondered which guest was visiting at this hour. At Lu Yu's shop, Xiaohai anxiously walked through the door, his heart full of worry because the chance of awakening this beast-taming talent was extremely rare. With dark circles under his eyes showing Xiaohai's many sleepless nights, he decided to take the gamble of his life, promising himself that if he could find a suitable beast companion, he would willingly sell his entire ancestral inheritance. Lu Yu quickly stepped out into the main lobby, warmly welcoming the guest with a bright smile. Xiaohai hesitantly looked around and asked if he was the shop owner here. Lu Yu gave a friendly smile to the young man in front of him, confirming his role, and then asked what kind of service he was looking for. Hearing that, Xiaohai began to open up, sharing that he had just attained a C-grade wood-type talent, so he wanted to find a plant-type or life-type beast to sign a contract with. Luckvu cheerfully nodded in agreement while waving his hand to materialize a box containing a cute little sapling inside. Tuhac curiously approached with an expectant face, asking if it was true. The young man peered intently at the small jar in the other's hand. Then suddenly he lost his temper and shouted out, "What kind of trick is this? Do you think I'm a fool who's easily tricked? This is clearly a wild willow branch from the roadside, not some plant spirit beast." Hearing this, Luckvu's face fell and he seriously explained, "This little guy has unlocked the extremely rare blood refinement evolution ability. It only needs to absorb and refine the blood of all things to find the most perfect transformation path for itself." Tuhac pouted and crossed his arms with contempt. "That kind of bizarre, self-growing talent, I've never heard of it before." Gradually losing patience, Luckvu waved his hand, "I don't have time to cure your ignorance. This plant costs exactly 3 million. If you're not buying, please move along and clear the space." Tuhac was so angry that his face turned red. "A whole 3 million. What a blatant scam. I will definitely report you to the Beast Tamer Association." Right at that moment, the world-destroying demon dragon suddenly appeared and let out a loud roar, making the grumbling guy's heart skip a beat. The guy hastily took a few steps back and yelled, "Don't think you can threaten me with force. It's useless." With that, he ran for his life, but still didn't he forget to look back and shout, "Just you wait." Luckvu watched the fleeing figure and shook his head in disappointment at his beloved dragon. He really is someone who doesn't know how to appreciate treasure. He sighed and hugged the precious box close, hoping this little plant would soon meet someone more deserving than the guy just now. Luckvu gently opened the box to check. The deadline assigned by the system was a mere 7 days. At this rate, with it being so deserted and empty of people for the past few days. While muttering, Luckvu cherished and held up the vibrant red jar to examine it closely. Then, he poured some of the liquid inside onto the roots of the newly planted tree, thinking to himself that he might have to ask the principal or Lothian VM for help. Wisps of red smoke surrounded the tree trunk and were quickly swallowed up. Luckvu smiled in approval. This little guy will definitely do great things in the future. Scene transition to the high-rise building of the Beast Tamer Association. Inside the public reception office, Tuhac was slamming the table and shouting at the receptionist that he wanted to file a complaint using his real name. The female employee maintained a gentle attitude and asked, "May I ask which case you would like to report, sir?" Brimming with murderous intent, he firmly stated, "I want to expose a dishonest merchant's shop that charges exorbitant prices far exceeding the association's regulations, and their customer service is also extremely terrible." The girl gently handed him a form and instructed, "Please fill in your information on this form, then go to the waiting chairs in the lobby to rest for a bit." Taking the stack of papers, he wore a cunning, self-satisfied smile. "This time, I must cause enough trouble to make that shop go out of business." In the administration board's office, the female employee entered the room and called out to her boss. She then handed the file to Lacknam and reported that someone had filed a complaint. However, the name of the shop being sued seems to be Lacknam, having just taken the paper, was stunned upon seeing the words written on it. Mythical Pet Shop. He solemnly announced that the principal of the Dixon Beast Taming Academy had just instructed the association to pay special attention and prioritize support for this shop. Lacknam looked slightly surprised, then nodded to confirm that this was indeed the most famous place in Maddo, where the leaders had directed them to fully support. He slammed his hand on the table, stood up abruptly in anger, and shouted to see who was brave enough to come here and cause trouble for his shop. He strode outside toward where Tiu Hak was sitting and waiting. As he approached this guest, he took the initiative to greet him. "Sir, are you the one who filed the complaint against the mythical pet shop?" Tiu Hak heard this and replied irritably, "That's right, you guys should handle it quickly so this ripoff scam shop doesn't disrupt the market." Lacknam replied with a serious expression, "I have checked thoroughly and found that the reputation and quality of care here are excellent. Even the principal of the Maddo Beast Taming Academy spoke highly of it." He lowered his voice and asked Tiu Hak directly, "Aren't you intentionally slandering them?" Tiu Hak was surprised by the other's harsh attitude and cried out in astonishment. He stammered with a confused face, "Well, I must have made a slight mistake. Please cancel this complaint." Lacknam pointed at Tiu Hak and declared firmly, "According to the law, slanderous behavior will result in 3 days of detention. Since this is your first offense, I will waive liability, but if you repeat it, don't blame me for being ruthless." Tiu Hak hastily bowed to apologize and assured that he would not dare to do it again next time. After saying this, he ran away in a panic for his life. Lacknam thought to himself, a place so highly valued by the principal must not be ordinary. My son has just awakened his sense of beast taming talent, so I should stop by and take a look too. Maddo City appeared peaceful under the golden sunlight and lush green trees. Tiu then dragged her heavy footsteps along the street with a suitcase behind her, secretly blaming herself for being such a failure. Despite being grown up, she still messed everything up. She sadly reflected on failing her college entrance exams, her talent not awakening, and her 2 months of summer part-time job money being completely stolen by her stepmother. Memories of her stepmother's scolding flooded back. She had criticized her for the hardship of raising her, and reproached her, saying how could she repay her with such a meager amount of money. At that time, her eyes held only helplessness mixed with despair in front of her stepmother. She stood alone in the middle of the wide, vast road ahead. Tiu then felt a brief pang of regret thinking about not having had the chance to visit the Maddo Beast Taming Academy before leaving. A security guard suddenly approached and shouted that outsiders were not allowed in, making her apologize flusteredly and leave in a hurry. Tiu then dejectedly dragged her suitcase along. She couldn't even fulfill such a small wish, confirming indeed that she was too useless. She accidentally passed by Lu Vue's shop and was drawn by a beautiful small potted plant. She looked up at the sign and gasped in surprise at the unfamiliar name. Tiu then's focus intensified on the potted plant, and she felt as if an invisible resonance was gently touching her heart. Lu Vu seemed completely unaware of everything happening outside. Lying stretched out on the sofa, he sighed, "Promoting this plant-type beast is so difficult. For the past 2 days, all the customers have been scared away. Who on earth would sell a young willow tree at an exorbitant price of 3 million? The young man scratched his head in confusion, wondering if he really had to sacrifice himself like this, which would be a huge loss. Lu Yu slowly walked out the door with a disappointed look on his face. Suddenly, he spotted a beautiful girl intently admiring his cute little plant, so he quickly approached her to strike up a conversation. The beauty named Xiao King was still captivated by the tiny potted plant. She secretly marveled in her heart that a plant-type pet like this was truly a rare gem. She gently looked at the poor little sprout and whispered, "Little one, does nobody want to take you home?" She was astonished to see the small willow branch squirming as if responding, realizing that this little guy could actually understand human speech. Seeing that scene, Lu Yu smiled and asked, "Hey beautiful, you seem to have quite a liking for it, don't you?" Xiao King embarrassedly waved her hand to deny it quickly. "I just happened to glance at it." The generous shop owner immediately proposed, "I am the boss here, so today I will give you a special privilege to touch it for a moment." Hearing the tempting offer, Xiao King's eyes lit up with surprise, and she asked eagerly, "Is that really true?" She gently raised her soft hand, lightly touching her fingertip to the delicate willow leaf. As soon as it received her touch, the little willow plant seemed to be infused with a magical surge of vitality, instantly stretching itself with full energy. With excitement written all over her radiant face, the young girl thought to herself that the faint connection from earlier was now clearer than ever. Standing beside her, Lu Yu silently assessed that the compatibility between this girl and the young willow branch was indeed no joke. He leaned down close to the potted plant and curiously asked Xiao King, "Is it trying to whisper something to you?" The girl nodded slightly and replied, "This little guy says it really wants to sign a fusion contract with me." Lu Yu was overjoyed because his guess was spot on. This was definitely destiny, and she was the most perfect owner for this sprout. The young man, acting completely at ease, pointed at the potted plant and said, "Then why don't you try dripping a drop of blood for it to taste?" Hearing that, Xiao King panicked. "That one to do? What if my ordinary blood dirties it, then how can you sell it to anyone else?" Lu Yu chuckled like a generous boss. "I told you I am the owner here. Just leave everything to me, so go ahead and boldly give it a try." Still a bit hesitant, Xiao King hesitantly replied, "In that case, let me try and see." She brought her slender finger to her mouth, closed her eyes slightly, and bravely bit down hard on her fingertip. A rosy red drop of blood slowly seeped out and fell directly onto the stem of the tiny willow plant. The willow branch swayed gracefully, greedily absorbing the full essence of the young girl's drop of blood. Witnessing that miraculous sight, Xiao King cheered with excitement. "Oh my goodness, this little guy just grew a bit more." Lu Yu immediately seized the opportunity to pitch, "Beautiful lady, since destiny has decided it, would you like to take it home right away?" Xiao King blushed, embarrassed, and scratched her head, "But I don't have a single penny on me right now, and besides, I've never even unlocked the taming talent, so how can I sign a contract with a spiritual beast?" Lu Yu waved his hand to show it was a trivial matter and asked suggestively, "Money is just fleeting, but are you 100% sure you don't have any innate talent at all?" She nodded slightly, her face clearly showing determination. Suddenly, a crimson droplet escaped from the willow canopy, floating gently in mid-air. The red beam of light rushed straight towards her, startling Xiao King, who could not help but ask herself in panic what was happening. Immediately after, a surging stream of power poured into her meridians, permeating her entire body. She was stunned and could not believe her eyes, thinking to herself that she had just awakened its ranked beast-taming talent, wondering if it could be the rumored undying true blood. Xiao King's face flushed red and she stammered, unable to form words. Lu Yu smiled at her, asking softly if she had officially awakened her talent. He placed his hand on her shoulder, gently saying that thanks to the favor of this sapling, her bloodline had been tempered, and she must absolutely not let it down. She gently slipped away from his hand, whispering that this was the first time in her life she felt so trusted and expected of. She pointed towards the base of the tree and clearly told the shop owner that she really wanted to sign a contract with it. In embarrassment, she pulled out her last few coins, her voice trembling slightly because that was all the money she had left in her pocket. Lu Yu's expression changed and he scratched his head to explain that money did not matter. Although the sapling cost 3 million yuan, he was willing to let her borrow and pay later. Upon hearing this, Xiao King lost her wits. The figure of 3 million was so huge that she worried she might never be able to pay it back in her lifetime. Lu Yu casually made a suggestion, telling her to work here, as the shop was in need of a quick-witted assistant like her. Without any hesitation, Xiao King nodded rapidly and promised to work hard, willing to do whatever the shop owner ordered. Lu Yu gave a thumbs up in approval, announcing that from now on she was officially an employee of the mythical beast pet shop. Suddenly, the system announced a congratulatory message that he had recruited his first employee, with the reward being a bunch of top-tier Scarlet Star resources, asking if he wanted to claim it immediately. Lu Yu agreed immediately without a second thought, confirming to receive the reward right away. A radiant notification board appeared, congratulating him on obtaining the true dragon source blood, a treasure that could turn any pet into a dragon in the blink of an eye. Lu Yu fell silent in deep thought. This true dragon source blood was something only heard of in legends, impossible to find on the outside market even in one's dreams. He suddenly remembered the guardian divine dragon of the Xia kingdom, which was rumored to have broken through its limits thanks to a single drop of source blood, bringing the country into the ranks of the 6 great powers. He quietly calculated that if the Red Thunder Flood Dragon or the world-destroying Demon Dragon were to use this, their strength would surely reach an unprecedented realm. Xiao King's voice suddenly pulled him back to reality as she asked blankly what her first task would be. Lu Yu sent her to the market to prepare a meal, telling her that she could board and lodge at the shop, and if she sold items she would even get an extra commission, which made her happily agree immediately. She excitedly walked out the door, humming a few cheerful songs as she went, and Yu suddenly appeared beside him, softly calling master in a sweet voice. The little girl raised the teapot with a charming smile, saying that the young leaves of the Heaven Star vine from last time had been brewed, and invited him to taste it. After speaking, the little girl quickly poured a cup of fragrant tea, inviting him to enjoy it. Lu Yu took it, slowly bringing the teacup to his lips to appreciate the pure fragrance. Closing his eyes to enjoy it, he felt the spiritual energy from the tea spreading out, far superior to any other premium tea, and the peaceful space made his soul incredibly relaxed. Just then, Xiao King entered the house carrying a bag, proudly announcing that she was back. Lu Wu, who was half asleep enjoying the massage, spoke up, "Thanks for the hard work, just throw your things behind me." Suddenly, Xiao King's face stiffened, and she asked in a low voice who that girl was. Lu Wu smiled and explained, "She is one of my pet guardians named Inwu. Just call her big sister." He looked at Inwu and thought to himself, although she looks small on the outside, she is actually a 1,000-year-old tree, so calling her big sister wouldn't hurt. Hearing this, Xiao King's eyes lit up with excitement. It turned out there were pets that could transform into human form, and she looked incredibly cute. Lu Wu cleared his throat a few times and said, "Tomorrow I have to go to Mado University to teach, so I'll leave the shop in your hands." Hearing that, Xiao King was curiously admiring. He was so young yet already a lecturer at a prestigious university, while she couldn't even pass the exams no matter how hard she tried. Then she proudly patted her chest and promised, "Boss, you can trust me, I will definitely protect this territory well." When night fell, Lu Wu sat cross-legged on the bed and turned on the control panel, Standing on the podium for the first time was indeed a bit nerve-wracking, so he had to prepare his lessons. He scanned the list of skills to evaluate them. Everything from the secret manual of the Mother Tree Elf to the knowledge of a 7-star super trainer was available. Lu Wu stared at the last item in astonishment, not expecting that the massive knowledge of a 7-star breeder would be so cheap at only 300 points. Without a second thought, he immediately pressed the button to purchase the bargain. The notification displayed the successful transaction for the 7-star breeder knowledge package, and his account was instantly drained to around zero. Immediately after, a surge of intellectual energy was transmitted directly into Lu Wu's brain, and the assimilation process began. His whole body trembled slightly as streams of glowing green characters surrounded and flowed throughout his body. A flood of ancient memories suddenly rushed into his mind. It turned out this treasury of knowledge belonged to a once extremely prosperous civilization. Countless ancient images flashed through his mind, showing great schools that used to train outstanding geniuses. Seeing the advanced laboratory setting appear, Lu Wu couldn't help but wonder about that mysterious god-making project. In the very center of the room was a giant glass experimental chamber containing a dark sphere, which seemed to be accumulating an infinite source of power. In the next moment, the monitoring screen flashed bright red text reporting that the great experiment had been completed successfully. Lu Wu looked closely at the blurry shadow in that scene and was startled to realize that the entity was actually a demon god. As the giant eyes of the evil god snapped open, a terrifying explosion instantly shook everything around. A series of skyscrapers crashed down like dominoes, bringing up thick clouds of dust that covered the sky. Lu Wu broke into a cold sweat at the scene he had just witnessed. The previous era dared to breed a demon god with their own hands. Could it be the creator of the current demon realm? Sighing with relief and collapsing onto the mattress, he marveled that just a single look from it was enough to make him tremble. Indeed, a supreme overlord of the world. He gently closed his eyes and murmured to himself that the journey ahead of him was still very long and arduous. The next morning, the bright morning sunlight shone down on the familiar pet shop. Lu Wu and Wu waved goodbye and gave instructions for the house, while Xiao Qing beamed and nodded in agreement immediately. Standing by the deserted roadside, Lu Wu called out softly to summon the black dragon to aid him on his journey. In the blink of an eye, the silhouette of the demon dragon suddenly appeared right there. It circled a few times in the air to display its mighty power. The gust of wind almost blew up Xiao Qing's skirt. She looked up in awe, thinking that saving such a powerful beast proved the shop owner was truly top tier. The scene shifts to a bustling university campus. In the hallway, a group of students gathered to gossip about the hot news. Xiao Bei put his arm around Lu Hang's shoulder and said rumors had it that an 18-year-old teacher was starting today, to which Xiao Huang marveled, so young yet already a lecturer. Xiao Bai pouted and replied, "That's not all, I also heard a tip that this person was specially appointed by the principal himself." Lu Hang looked indifferent and dismissive, probably just another person relying on connections to earn a living here. The scene shifts to an office. Murong strode furiously toward Lu Chan. "Have you heard about the new young lecturer at the school? In my opinion, he has a reputation without the reality, probably just used the back door to get in." Lu Chan calmly set her pen down and replied, "I know he is both young and talented, and probably unmatched among the younger generation of the entire Blue Star." Murong's face darkened like the bottom of a pot, his mind in incomprehensible turmoil. Wow, Lu Chan, who had always been so proud, was actually showering someone else with such high praise today. He immediately changed his tune faster than lightning. "In that case, I must go see the public lecture today for myself." Before he turned to leave, Lu Chen coldly reminded him, "Right, when the time comes, don't call my name, lest they misunderstand your intentions and cause trouble." Murong felt resentful and aggrieved inside. What on earth was this lizard that could make such a proud flower infatuated to this extent? At this moment, the hallway was quiet, with only low whispers. "Hey guys, the young teacher is being talked about excitedly all over the school." Xiao Lan whispered in Lucas' ear teasingly, "Young master, aren't you curious about his real ability? He's about our age after all." Hearing this, Luxu sneered and threw the book down. "I have absolutely no interest in scrutinizing mortals." Xiao Lan quickly chimed in, "Exactly. Brother Xu, you awakened 2 monstrous talents at age 6 and by 8, you had proudly become a Beastmaster and contracted with 2 ancient dragon species." He patted the other's shoulder flatteringly. "With such an outstanding genius like you, why bother with the class of a nobody?" Only then did Luxu frown, snap around and shout, "Do you have nothing better to talk about?" Xiao Lan was startled and slipped away quickly. "I want to do it again, I'm out of here." Ignoring the nonsense, Luxu pensively flipped through the pages of the ancient book. He muttered as he read each word, "The ancient dragon language magic is sealed in here, so why can I never channel that source of power?" The scene changes again to a large lecture hall, where students from all over are rushing to find their seats. Xiao Huang stared in admiration. "This is huge, they even dared to borrow the VIP classroom reserved for veteran professors." He glanced over to where Shen Nianian and Du Royan were whispering, "Look guys, even the 2 campus beauties have scrambled here to attend." Then he scanned the corner of the room. "Oh look, even the head of the Tianyan branch of the Luo family is present." Xiao Huang continued to scan around. "Even the principal's beloved grandson has joined the crowd." Suddenly, he panicked and nudged Liu Hang. Look behind Teacher Liu, isn't he that senior Liu Hang who is at the top of the rankings? Xiaoping sighed dejectedly. Given the senior's abilities, he'd probably have to graduate with outstanding honors to be qualified to teach a class. As for Yu Wei, her face turned pale with jealousy. It turned out that the girl who dared to humiliate her at the Luyu shop also studied here. No wonder she behaved so arrogantly. Suddenly, Akan eagerly approached and said, "Hey Diet Vi, are you feeling unwell somewhere? Why don't I escort you back to your room to rest?" Diet Vi tossed her head haughtily and refused immediately. "You are worrying way too much." Suddenly, Tu Hong sprang up and pointed straight at the door. "Look, the teacher is here." Luck Fu strolled in with a calm and leisurely demeanor. Tu Bine blinked in admiration. "Oh my, this guy looks quite impressive, doesn't he?" In stark contrast, Diet Vi gaped in surprise. "Luck Vu, it turns out to be this guy." Luck Vu casually walked up to the podium. "Apologies to the class for being a bit late due to traffic. I am Luck Vu, in charge of the pet training seminar." Then he warmly continued, "Any student who finds this interesting, feel free to sign up for my class." Quick as a flash, Thien Viem raised his hand high. "Senior Luck, please sign me up." Immediately, Neem Neem and Nuok Van joined in. "Me too. Please register me as well." Dong Vu and Te Vu called out in unison. "Don't forget the two of us." Hearing this, Luck Vu replied, "The class is temporarily limited to only 5 slots. After all, I don't have much first-hand experience yet, so the rest of you will have to wait for the next recruitment round." Lac Thien looked up at him and suggested, "Teacher Luck, I am also extremely fascinated by your class. Can I sit in on one of your lectures sometime?" Hearing this, Tu Hong widened his eyes and almost screamed, "Is this a joke? Ms. Liu is the favorite disciple of the notoriously cold Principal Don, so why is she proactively asking to audit someone else's lecture?" From the podium, Luck Vu calmly looked down at Lac Thien. "As long as Ms. Liu is interested, I am always happy to welcome you." Lac Thien shyly covered her mouth and smiled. "Thank you, Teacher Luck." Suddenly, Lac Hang stood up in a fit of rage. "Enough already. What teacher? What pet training? It's nothing but relying on backdoor connections. Why does our noble beast taming academy tolerate this kind of person?" Luck Vu looked straight at the troublemaker with a solemn expression. "My fellow student, are you implying that I got up here through connections?" Without holding back, Lac Hang ranted on. "What else? In terms of cultivation realm, you aren't even worthy to carry my shoes, let alone compare to this year's top freshman, Luck Huck, who could easily outmatch you several times over." Hearing this, Luck Vu sneered in response, "That nobody named Luck Huck is in no position to be compared to me. Besides, using your measly cultivation realm as a yardstick is truly like a frog at the bottom of a well." Standing below with one hand in his pocket and his chin up in defiance, Lac Hang challenged, "Talk is cheap, anyone can boast. If you're so capable, show us your real strength." At that very moment, Luck Vu leisurely stepped away from the podium. In the blink of an eye, a deep purple flame flared up in his palm. "This is the fire essence of the pet I have contracted with." He then scanned the crowd provocatively. "Anyone who still doubts my ability can come up here and take a hit. If you can last against this flame for more than 3 seconds, I will pack up and leave immediately." Sitting in the corner of the classroom, Tiu Bak gaped in astonishment. With just a spark from his pet, he dares to arrogantly challenge everyone. Tu Hong leaned on his chair and pouted. For someone who has only reached the 10th level of the Star Realm to sign a contract, how formidable could his pet possibly be? Suddenly, Thien Viem seemed to realize something. "This is bad. That purple flame, could it be the most dominant legendary flame?" Lac Hang waved his hand with an arrogant, dismissive look. "You really don't know your own limits." He walked aggressively straight toward Luck Vu. "Let me step up and see what you've got." As soon as he finished speaking, he summoned a greatsword gleaming with golden light. A moment later, a suit of armor was fully equipped on Lac Hang's body. Luck Vu looked straight at his opponent and said loudly, "So you've assigned a contract with 3 types of metal entities, a sword, a set of armor, and a pair of golden wings." Lac Hang still arrogantly pointed the tip of his sword at Luck Vu, loudly declaring that he would shatter all of his opponent's tricks. Luck Vu smirked, his demeanor remaining calm as if nothing had happened. The feeling of standing on the side of justice was indeed not bad. Having finished speaking, he slightly narrowed his eyebrows to carefully observe the student, thinking to himself that this person seemed to lack wisdom. Provoked to the point of anger, Lac Hang fiercely swung his sword high, ready to launch an extremely arrogant attack. However, before the sword could even touch a single strand of Luck Vu's hair, countless cracks appeared on its blade. Seeing this, Lac Hang's face turned pale, and he stammered, wondering what on earth this was. Immediately after that, the sharp sword actually shattered into tiny pieces. Before Lac Hang could do anything to resist, he fell backward. He collapsed to the ground, asking himself why things had turned out this way. Seeing that state, Luck Vu looked pleased with himself and said, "Don't be in a hurry, it's not over yet. Take your time and taste the heat of this purple flame." He gently raised his hand to release the flame toward Lac Hang, while the latter was in extreme panic, seeing nothing but the glow of fire in his eyes. It wasn't until the rings of fire actually blazed fiercely around him that Lac Hang realized he had lost completely, screaming in despair that it was impossible. He immediately kowtowed to the floor several times in succession, earnestly begging Teacher Luck for mercy and admitting his mistake. Soon after, Luck Vu recalled the flame and said calmly, "Rest assured, after all, we have a teacher-student relationship." He flashed a bright smile, wondering how he could bring himself to commit such cruel acts. Lak Hang at that moment looked extremely pathetic with only his shorts left on him, his limbs trembling with fear. Suddenly his head began to spin and his dull eyes could not clearly see his surroundings. In the very next second, Lak Hang collapsed to the ground, falling completely unconscious. Seeing this, Luk Vu raised his eyebrows slightly and exclaimed, "Could the monster-taming students of this school really have such a poor physical condition?" Watching this, Xiaobai was truly horrified, thinking to himself that even a solar rank expert might not necessarily withstand that flame. Suddenly, Vu appeared right before Luk Vu's eyes, asking if her master needed her help to heal him. Luk Vu replied, "No need, he won't die." Don't delay the class, to which the girl responded that this person was both weak and pitiful. Next, Luk Vu turned to ask his colleague sitting high up for help. "Teacher, could you take this student to the infirmary? I still have a class to teach." Unexpectedly asked for help, the other teacher cursed inwardly with annoyance, thinking that this kid was treating him like a servant. After the impressive display of strength, Luk Vu calmly asked the class, "Is there anyone else who thinks I am unqualified and wants to come up here to test their skills?" The entire auditorium suddenly fell silent. Everything being settled, he smiled and continued, "If there are no further objections, I will now begin the lecture." Then suddenly, from below, Xiaoxu raised her hand to share her opinion. "Teacher Luk, you are so strong, why are you teaching monster nurturing instead of combat?" Making everyone else nod in agreement. Responding to the crowd, Lu Fu smiled and explained that since combat inherently relies on the strength of the beast, the work of cultivating them is the most fundamental core. Witnessing the lively classroom atmosphere, Renren looked annoyed because everyone, despite previously doubting the shop owner, was now head over heels for him, making Royan laugh secretly, thinking that the young teacher was bound to be the secret crush of the female students. Outside, the hallway was dead silent. In the classroom, Lu Fu was still enthusiastically imparting knowledge. After a while, he reminded them that the class was almost over and the remaining time would be for 2 students to practice cultivating beasts, asking whoever wanted to participate to boldly raise their hand. A flurry of hands went up simultaneously, with the whole class showing clear excitement. In the end, Lu Fu designated Shen Renren and Du Royun to come up to the board to do the practice. Upon hearing their names, the 2 girls flashed radiant smiles, filled with immense joy. However, Xiaoxu stood up to object, saying that the teacher should choose someone else because their slime and moonlight leaf had already hit their limit and could not be further cultivated unless their owners reached the extraordinary rank. Xiaobai also chimed in, suggesting that it would be better for the teacher to help him cultivate his own beast. Standing in front of the 2 female students who had come up to the board, Lu Fu gently reassured the crowd to calm down. He asked a counter-question, wondering if everyone was absolutely sure that slime and moonlight leaf had reached the end of their development. Xiaoxu asserted firmly that it was obvious, because the beasts of awakening level beast tamers could only reach level 10 as their ultimate limit. Immediately, Lu Fu countered that they were wrong. The world of beast taming holds countless possibilities, and they must first learn to break the barriers in their thinking. Just then, a man's deep and warm voice echoed, praising his charismatic way of speaking. He smiled in agreement with Lu Fu's perspective and admitted that he was very interested in this limit-breaking concept. The entire classroom buzzed with excitement. No one expected Teacher Lu to be so charismatic that Principal Duan himself would pay a visit. The principal brought a box full of precious items, causing everyone to whisper because it was filled with ordinary bronze and black iron tier resources. Xiaobai wondered whether Teacher Lu really intended to use this pile of mediocre items to cultivate the beasts. Lu Fu picked up a stone and explained to everyone that these were indeed low-level materials belonging to the black iron and bronze categories. However, they were the most suitable catalysts for slime and moonlight leaf at the moment. He quickly laid them out on the classroom desk. Afterward, he assigned the 2 girls to combine the materials according to the instructed ratio, fuse them into their beast-taming space, and then transfer them to their beasts. Both hesitated for a moment but eventually agreed to do it. As a glow of light enveloped their bodies, they told themselves to place their trust in Teacher Lu. Butterfly wings fluttered as they took flight in the colorful, brilliant sunlight. Xiaoxu was stunned, unable to believe her eyes at the scene unfolding before her. Renren and Ruyun astonished the entire class as their beasts had just reached the first stage of the extraordinary realm. This was so unbelievable that Xiaobai stood frozen, not expecting such a simple cultivation method to yield such an astonishing breakthrough. Xiaoxu, who had been skeptical of their abilities, now began to waver, wondering if Teacher Lu was indeed a legendary cultivation master capable of turning decay into miracles. The principal kept watching without looking away, praising endlessly as he witnessed him break the harsh laws that had existed for thousands of years in the beast-taming world. Watching the spectacular breakthrough of those 2 pets, Lu Yu once again proved that nothing in this world is impossible. Turning to coach his 2 favorite students, he emphasized that as long as they grasp the right methods, both pets and beast tamers will soar like a kite in the wind. The students below watched with their mouths agape in astonishment. The scene was like magic brought to life. This went far beyond all expectations, leaving the principal deep in thought. Once the beast-taming space fully recovers, I must ask Lu Yu to continue training so the pets can climb to the rank of overlord. Thanks to Lu Yu's guidance, Nian achieved this miracle. She excitedly thanked the shopkeeper for not only helping her break her limits, but also teaching her the secret refining techniques. Lu Yu gave her a playful wink, signaling her to keep it quiet. This was a state secret after all. Hearing this made Nian's face flush red like a ripe gak fruit. Meanwhile, Ru Yun smiled gently as she watched her pet after its breathtaking transformation. Lu Yu observed attentively and nodded in praise. Her little insect had evolved into a beautiful light-winged form, truly a magnificent result. He did not forget to offer her encouraging praise. Keep taking good care of it. I have high expectations for you. Receiving this mental boost from her teacher, Ru Yun was visibly happy and promised to complete her mission excellently. Lu Yu understood all too well that their main obstacle was being stuck at the 10th stage of the awakening level. Thus, as a loyal customer, he couldn't bear to stand by and watch them stay stagnant. He silently calculated that as long as he strove to break through to the extraordinary level this year, he would surely secure a full scholarship, and then return to the mythical pet shop to form a pact with the second little one. The more he thought about it, the more he admired himself, as he had sacrificed so much effort for this performance target. Concluding his students' stunning display, Lu Yu gathered his materials and loudly announced the end of today's lesson. Just as he stepped out the door, Lu Yu shook hands with several colleagues and greeted them before everyone went their separate ways. He smiled and waved goodbye, unaware that Diet Fai was standing motionless in the distance, watching him. Akan, who had been standing by the whole time, had taken it all in. He teased his friend sadly. Diet Fai, what's wrong with you? Have you fallen for Teacher Lu? He slowly uttered his honest opinion that while Teacher Lu was indeed outstanding, he was far too perfect, so she shouldn't hope to reach him. Hearing this, Diet Fai immediately flared up and retorted with an annoyed expression. What do you know? He used to be my ex-boyfriend. This bombshell of a statement left everyone who heard it speechless, including Akan, who stared and asked back ex-boyfriend. Diet Fai, are you daydreaming in broad daylight? Seeing her best friend dare to doubt the truth of her claim, Diet Fai snapped, it's the blatant truth. Why do you both always love to doubt me? Akan shook his head warily, not bothering to argue anymore, convinced that his friend had lost her mind. You're truly a lost cause. Let me drag you to the infirmary to get some medicine for you. Leaving behind her sorrowful expression and her muttering, Diet Fai firmly insisted that she was completely sane and not crazy at all. On her phone screen, the list of names she had heartlessly blocked long ago appeared, including Lu Yu, Leviathan, and Teen Duong. With high determination, Diet Fai bit the bullet and sent a friend request along with an earnest message. Lu Yu, I know I was wrong. Can we go back to the way we were? After hitting send, she smirked triumphantly, thinking she had this in the bag. To her surprise, reality slapped her hard when a cold notification popped up on the screen, stating that the message could not be sent because she had been blocked long ago. A sense of collapse washed over Diet Fai, causing her to scream helplessly in the afternoon air. Lu Yu, why are you being so heartless to me? Meanwhile, in the school infirmary, the wall clock had just struck past 3 in the afternoon. Lu Taiet and Mu Rong were keeping watch by Lak Hang's hospital bed. Looking at his current condition, she secretly wondered which high-level beast tamer this young man had offended. Mu Rong immediately dismissed it, knowing full well it was Lu Yu, as there was no way the person who defeated Lak Hang could be a novice. Hearing that, she brushed it off, although she had not yet traced the source of the lingering power. Looking at the injuries, it was clear he should have died long ago. And it was 23-year-old Miss Lu Taiet from the prestigious elf family who had kept his last breath. She asserted that those flickering purple sparks of fire were still struggling to sustain Lak Hang's fragile life. The more Mu Rong listened, the more absurd it seemed. How could an unknown person so easily create such a miracle? He repeatedly asked about the situation. After all, he was the beloved son of the Lak family in the south, and if anything happened to him, it would be difficult for the school to explain. Lu Taiet sighed helplessly, saying rest assured he won't be meeting his ancestors anytime soon. As soon as she finished speaking, a lovely little elf materialized right on her shoulder. Speechless from a series of shocks, Mu Rong's jaw dropped as he realized this was the extremely rare and noble royal lineage of natural elves. The tiny creature flew over to Lak Hang's side, stretched out its tiny hand, and began to infuse life force to heal him. Sure enough, it was an overpowering magic. In the blink of an eye, the patient returned from the brink of death and opened his eyes wide. Holding his buzzing head due to temporary memory loss, he asked in confusion why he was lying there like that, addressing Teacher Mu and Miss Lu. Mu Rong both recounted the scene and mocked him. You dared to arrogantly challenge the new instructor only to get swept aside and defeated. Do you remember now? The memories rushing back made Lak Hang just want to sink into the ground. As the eldest grandson of the Lak family with top-tier abilities, losing so embarrassingly to the Dragon Tamer clan was truly bitter. Although the truth was obvious, he was still aggrieved and couldn't understand why the gap in strength between himself and Teacher Lu was such an abyss. To enlighten the former patient, Lu Taiet calmly explained that above rank, there are still saintly beings with divine talents, which is why they say there are always higher mountains. After hearing the introductory lesson, Lak Hang could only sigh in frustration and admit that Teacher Lu was indeed a monster. Upon hearing the familiar name, Lu Tayet's eyes flashed with pensiveness and she asked insistently if that young instructor's name was Lu Yu, around 18 years old, and looking exactly like Lu Xu. Mu Rong nodded in agreement, saying that now that she mentioned it, the two of them indeed looked like they were cast from the same mold. Having a long-time habit of gossiping, Lu Tayet revealed, "When I was young, I heard adults whispering that the young master Lu Yu had been cursed as a good-for-nothing since he was little. Because of that fatal flaw, Lu Xu naturally took over the position of heir. Experiencing hardship since birth, Lu Yu suddenly vanished from the family without a trace, with rumors suggesting he was thrown out onto the street. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel anxious. Now that he had returned in disguise with such terrifying power, the Lack family should prepare themselves to face a storm. She was lost in thought, wondering whether they would choose to bow and apologize, throw money to win him over, or ruthlessly eradicate him entirely. The scene shifted to the lively boys' dormitory. The whole room was gathered in groups to catch up on the news, as young Xiao Lan excitedly recounted the solo match where teacher Lu simply waved his hand gently and Lack Hang was face down on the ground. He grinned and showed off the achievement, boasting about how someone at the 10th layer of the Star Realm could smash the face of an enemy at the 3rd layer of the Cold Moon Realm. Turning to look at his teammate, Xiao Lan teased, "Hey Daixu, are you really not planning to go broaden your horizons a bit?" He continued to coax him, saying that with his existing foundation, if he enrolled in teacher Lu's course, he would surely soar like a dragon and conquer the whole world. Lu Xu turned his face away and replied curtly, "Someone old enough to be my teacher must at least be on the level of Professor Taman. Those greenhorn lecturers have no right to lecture me." He muttered to himself, "Right now the priority is to merge the two rank abilities within me, only then can I become unrivaled and conquer the world." Opening the book with a heart full of doubts, Lu Xu wondered why this pair of rank abilities kept clashing and kicking each other out. The film of the past rewound 20 years to the imposing Lu family estate. Young Lu Xu, running and panting, shouted, "Brother, walk slowly, why are your limbs so long anyway?" The head of the Lu family boomed, "You arrived just in time, the evaluation results for your abilities are finally out." Our Lu Xu had just hit the jackpot with a fiery rank ability, Golden Dragon Shadow. Meanwhile, his younger brother Lu Xu had snatched the top-tier rank ability, Divine Lord Dragon Shadow. He laughed heartily and boasted, "As long as you two brothers join forces, the Lu family will surely dominate the world and reign supreme over all 3 clans of dragon tamers." While Lu Vu was beaming with joy, Lu Xu pulled a long face, thinking, "How annoying that my brother managed to snag and rank too." Even when he was tiny, he had already started acting arrogant and dismissive toward his older brother. Sneaking away while dreaming of monopolizing the peak, he thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to be the only one with an S-rank ability? The scene shifted to the family's ancient library. Lu Xu accidentally stumbled upon a dusty, rare document. The yellowed page clearly stated that a dual rank ability was the supreme badge, honored as the most powerful bloodline. Back when he was a brat, he had smirked and thought, "It's perfect if he doesn't reach rank, then we'll both just be losers living off others' charity." Snapping back to the harsh reality, Tiu Lam pulled his sleeve, confused, and asked, "Big brother Xu, why are you standing there like a statue acting weird?" He chuckled, patted Lu Xu's shoulder, and sincerely advised, "You should really cozy up to Professor Lu Vu, I guarantee you'll strike it rich." As soon as he heard that grating name, Lu Xu's blood boiled. He grabbed Tiu Lam by the collar and roared, "Whose name did you just call?" Tightening his grip while interrogating him, he gritted his teeth and asked, "What is that old man's name? Speak." Seeing the situation become tense, Tiu Lam trembled and stuttered, "It's Lu Vu, who else could it be?" Hearing the answer that set his teeth on edge, Lu Xu did not hesitate to shove him with such force that he went tumbling to the ground. He gritted his teeth and muttered to himself, "Brother, I never expected you to have the guts to reappear in front of me, let alone become a lecturer at Mado University. It's always like this, you love standing high above others without ever saying a word." He laughed, mocking himself, "I've endured enough today, I'm gonna tear you to pieces." Outside in the hallway of the lecture hall, students were bustling about, extremely lively. Lu Vu was chatting happily with Lac Thian and Tung Kwok, saying, "Once my space ability fully recovers, I'll definitely visit the mythical pet shop and ask Teacher Lu for some help." He glanced over curiously, wondering why did he come all the way here, while Yu, seeing this scene, offered an enigmatic smile. The person who had just appeared was none other than Lu Xu, so Lu Vu spoke up, "Hello Lu Xu, it's been a long time since we last met." Witnessing the reunion reeking of gunpowder, Lac Thian's eyes widened in surprise, "Are you two actually close friends?" The other person spoke up to say hello, that face was all too familiar after all. He sneered with a smirk and taunted, "So you've finally dragged yourself back, huh?" Upon hearing this, the other replied, "Oh, hey there little brother, how have you been doing lately?" He strained his neck and grumbled, "How on earth did you still manage to snag that talent and legitimately become a beast tamer?" The young man calmly chuckled, "What's so strange about that? By the way, I'm also curious to ask you a question." Hearing that, his face hardened as he snapped, "What do you want to ask?" The young man slowly drawled, "Is my beast taming ability satisfying to use, little brother?" As soon as he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers, and a glowing circle immediately appeared beneath his feet. The dazzling light emanating from it forced him to immediately raise his hand to cover his eyes. Next, he was thrust straight into a strange dimension, which he recognized at a glance as his own beast-taming domain. The move made him widen his eyes in panic. Are you trying to scare me with this? In your dreams, baby. Show your face. Where is everyone? He frantically looked around in all directions to assess the situation. Suddenly, the young man appeared and grabbed his neck violently, choking him half to death. Barely able to breathe, his face turned bright red as he shouted, "Let go of me right now." To his surprise, the other didn't loosen his grip but smirked. "My foolish little brother, are you daydreaming about stealing my talent again? It's hilariously ridiculous." With his true face exposed, his embarrassment turned into rage as he roared, "Shut up, all of you, get out here for me." Immediately, two massive dragons loomed up behind his back. They threw back their heads and let out a fierce, thunderous roar. Seizing the moment the other let his guard down, he quickly broke free from the choking hand. But unluckily for him, he was still flung away and crashed painfully to the ground. Ironically, he didn't even bother to get angry but laughed weirdly. "Now let me answer your question from earlier." He smirked triumphantly and declared, "Your beast-taming talent is absolutely amazing to use." Hearing this, the young man could only give a faint laugh. "You really are a hopeless, pathetic case." Those words made his blood boil with anger. "Me, pathetic?" Fuming, he firmly declared that he would make him taste the power of the golden ancient dragon. Immediately after, the golden ancient dragon roared majestically. In stark contrast, he wasn't the least bit afraid but excitedly conjured a small flame and mocked, "Have you ever experienced a heavenly fire, baby?" Hearing those words made him panic and shriek, "What on earth?" In the blink of an eye, the golden ancient dragon was swallowed and fiercely burned by his flame. It cried out miserably in pain, completely helpless against that vicious fire. The scene left him utterly bewildered, wondering how this could have happened. Only now did he discover with shock the true origin of that blazing spark. It was indeed the destructive fire breathed out by the abyss demon dragon. So he sneered mockingly, challenging the other person, asking if they thought they could defeat him just by borrowing the prestige of an ancient dragon. Then the abyss demon dragon, with a bloodthirsty gaze, let out a fierce and powerful roar. It aggressively pounced on the golden ancient dragon, causing its opponent to turn tail and flee in panic. However, the fugitive was still closely pursued by the abyss demon dragon, which refused to let go even for a single step. Instantly, the abyss demon dragon swung its sharp claws in an attempt to seize its target. The precise strike dug straight into the golden ancient dragoness flesh, leaving it torn and bleeding profusely. The abyss demon dragon continued to bite down hard on the golden ancient dragoness wings, inflicting heavy and painful injuries. Witnessing this scene made Luxu tremble in fear, unable to believe the powerful ancient dragon his family paid a high price for was so easily subdued by Lu Yu. Thus, both angry and resentful, he wondered why his opponent was once again getting the upper hand over him. Suddenly, he remembered an important detail and told himself to wait. At this moment, Luxu turned pale as he realized the truth. The notorious demon dragon species specialized in hunting other dragon breeds. Currently, the golden ancient dragon was completely defeated, having lost its powerful wings and having no strength left to continue. Seeing his comrade fall so miserably before him, he screamed out, begging him not to do it. Then he turned and shouted at his opponent, "Lu Yu, this is my first pack comrade, raised by my side since childhood. How dare you treat it so cruelly?" Therefore, he hurriedly ordered the golden ancient dragon to quickly retreat into its spirit beast space for refuge. However, the demon dragon beast did not want its prey to escape, so it quickly dashed forward to block the way. Witnessing the aggressive interception, he was scared out of his wits. Fortunately, Lu Yu decided to show mercy and ordered his spirit beast to stop. Seizing the opportunity, he hurriedly recalled the dragon and wondered suspiciously why the other hadn't pressed his advantage. Suddenly, Lu Yu took leisurely steps closer and called out to his dear younger brother. As he walked, he spoke calmly, "I still remember how good our relationship was when we were small. I used to pamper you to no end." Hearing the past mentioned, Luxu unconsciously nodded in confirmation. He continued, "And yet, you colluded with your mother to steal the original talent that originally belonged to me." Having his shameful crime exposed on the spot, he was left speechless, gritting his teeth in silence. Not yet letting him go, he continued to press, "You must be wondering why I let you recall the golden ancient dragon so easily, right?" Upon hearing this, Lux's body trembled violently as he asked urgently for the reason. Lu Yu smiled and replied, "The reason is simple. That golden ancient dragon is linked directly to your S-grade talent. If it kicks the bucket, your rank will automatically plummet." With those words, he reached out his hand toward his battle dragon and whispered, "Little brother, if you hadn't stolen my talent back then, this ancient divine dragon would have belonged to me. You bear the title of the Golden Battle Shadow, born to charge into battle, while I carry the mission of protecting the world. We should have been able to bring the Lu clan to the peak of glory together." That babble only made him more bewildered, and he pressed, "What on earth are you plotting? Things have already come to this, and you still want to act out this drama of deep brotherly affection." Realizing his opponent was overthinking in the wrong direction, he immediately smiled and corrected him. "No way, you are misjudging this good brother of yours again." He calmly stated his purpose, "I only want to leave you a little more time to breathe, to let you experience the feeling of overflowing hope before being brutally trampled into the dark mud." Lu Yu dealt another psychological blow. "Your good days are numbered. I will take back everything that belongs to me and level that Lu family to the ground. Let's see what you will have to be proud of then. Otherwise, if I were to bring you down right now, wouldn't this game be too boring? Hearing this, he curled his lip and sneered, level my Lu family. With your meager skills, how dare you speak such arrogant words? In the face of such contempt, he didn't care in the least, but only pointed smugly at the two towering divine dragons behind him and laughed. Yes, this much is more than enough. Instantly, the giant demon dragon rushed forward and locked onto the neck of the ancient golden dragon. It radiated an extreme pressure to completely crush the golden opponent's resistance. The golden battle dragon was battered so badly that it fainted, blood flowing endlessly. That tragic sight sent Lu Xu into a towering rage, and he roared with choked resentment, "You have a lot of nerve." However, Lu Yu smiled slightly and reassured him, "Don't worry too much, I wouldn't have the heart to harm this ancient divine dragon. After all, when I was a child, I also dreamed of being its master." He leisurely continued, "However, those dragon wings happen to be a favorite delicacy that my demon dragon craves. How could I refuse my pet's request?" Saying this, he suddenly turned to look at him with bone-chilling eyes. "And as for you, what should I do?" Before the opponent could react, he roughly grabbed Lu Xu by the neck and warned in a low, harsh voice, "Keep your eyes wide open and watch how I crush the Lu family, to see how an arrogant person like you will wander around like a stray dog then." With his throat squeezed tightly, he could only widen his eyes, gasp for air, and tremble all over in fear. "I will make you pay a heavy price for all the contempt you have shown me for so long." After speaking, Lu Yu decisively let go, causing his opponent to fall to the ground, gasping for air, and coldly granted, "I will temporarily give you a chance to survive." The smile on his face vanished, replaced by a dark, cold expression and sarcasm. "But with your current pathetic strength, by the time I accomplish my grand ambition, you probably won't even have the right to look up at me." As soon as he finished speaking, the phantom beast training space began to crack and shatter, returning them to reality. Just then, a roar resounded, accompanied by the appearance of a powerful level 10 sun-grade blazing giant dragon, along with a piercing shout demanding the immediate release of the second young master. Seeing someone come to his rescue and reinforce him, he was not only unafraid but smirked. "Oh, so this is Lucas Guard Dog." Watching from above, Ru Yun's expression changed instantly when she recognized it as the level 10 blazing giant dragon of the legendary Sun grade. Seeing Lu Yu caught in a pincer attack, Ran grew extremely anxious and said in a panic, "This is bad, I must go down and lend the shop owner a hand." But Ruo Yun quickly held her shoulder to hold her back, advising, "Calm down, young lady. Rushing down now will only get in his way. What we need to do now is trust the shop owner's capability." Hearing that sensible advice, Ran had no choice but to swallow her anxiety and nod in agreement. On the ground below, seeing his powerful reinforcements arrive, Lu Xu immediately became arrogant. "Lu Yu, it's time for this Game of Thrones to end. After all, both your strength and that of your demon dragon are only at the measly star grade." He threw his head back and laughed wildly, then confidently declared, "In front of my ultra-strong level 10 sun-grade blazing giant dragon, don't even dream of the word victory." Witnessing that expression of extreme smugness, he simply smiled gently and replied, "Is that so?" Lu Huck calculated to himself, "As long as I get rid of him for good, I will remain the brightest star of the beast-taming academy." However, he suddenly noticed something unusual. Why was there not a trace of fear in his opponent's eyes? Elder Kan immediately stepped forward to shield the giant fire dragon and spoke up, "It has been a long time since we last met, young Master Lu Vu." He raised an eyebrow, looked at the old man, and asked bluntly, "Is the Kan family intending to protect that guy?" The old man's expression changed in anger upon hearing this. "My life's duty is to protect young Master Lu Huck." Hearing this, he laughed sarcastically. "I see. In that case, take this useless fellow and get back to the family immediately to save yourself the trouble." Being berated made the old man's face darken with annoyance. "Even though you were kicked out of the family, I still call you young master as a formality, so don't even dream of ordering me around." He nodded as if in agreement. "Oh, that's true. After all, that loser is the promising heir of the Lu family, isn't he?" Elder Kan calmly admitted it. "That's right. Since you have fortunately recovered your beast-taming ability and even obtained a dragon worm, you might as well come with me to face your punishment. Any grievances you caused the heir will be treated lightly by the family head. Who knows, you might even be welcomed back and everyone will be happy." He gave a faint smile as if to jog the old man's memory. "Have you forgotten who was the first to tame this fire dragon before you people stripped me of my talent?" His face suddenly turned cold and grim. "Even now, you still have the nerve to play the virtuous person in front of me?" The old man stubbornly countered, "But thanks to that incident, haven't you now gained a new, superior beast-taming ability? If it weren't for the royal blood flowing in your veins helping you awaken the power of the dragon, you should be bowing down in gratitude to the family as a matter of propriety." He burst into laughter as if he had just heard the most ridiculous joke in the world. "Your concept of gratitude toward the family is truly laughable." His eyes narrowed with murderous intent. "Initially, I wanted to settle my debts slowly, but if you are so eager to sacrifice your lives, I am more than happy to oblige." Finishing his words, he slid his hand to draw out his purest bloodline essence to activate a forbidden magic summoning spell. A wave of evil energy spread, causing the fire dragon to seemingly lose its senses, roaring with unprecedented madness. Witnessing that shocking scene, Elder Can was stunned in horror. What on earth is this? Why does that thing have the ability to stimulate the fire dragon's bloodline? He realized that if the beast swallowed that precious drop of blood, it would ascend directly to the sovereign level and perhaps even evolve into an ancient legendary dragon. He dreamed aloud with a haughty laugh, "Once I grasp the power of a monarch, I will stand above thousands in the Lu clan, my status matching the majesty of the world." Sensing the shift in the wind, Lu Huk smirked triumphantly. "Elder Can, hurry up and slaughter him. My divine beast is itching to transform and dominate the world." Noticing his opponent's dark scheme to eliminate him, Lu Vu gave a sarcastic laugh. "Seems you really crave this drop of essence blood, so come over and try to take it." In the blink of an eye, with a deafening roar, the black dragon was immediately summoned by him to fight with pride. The black dragon instantly opened its mouth and swallowed the essence blood drop from its master. The old man stamped his feet in fury. "Damn it. If that wicked black dragon has snatched the precious blood, let the fire dragon swallow it to seize everything back." The two giant dragon monsters roared and lunged at each other, creating an earth-shattering battle. The old man, deranged with bloodshot eyes, screamed in absolute delusion, "When the cards are on the table, all the glory, wealth, and supreme power will belong to me." The kid standing nearby cheered in extreme excitement. "That's exactly right, Elder Can. Crush that unlucky monster for me." Looking at the delusional look of those two, he burst into a mocking laugh. "You guys are really daydreaming, planning to devour the body of the world-destroying demon dragon without even bothering to ask for my opinion." Upon hearing this, Lord Can burst into a smug laugh. "Ask a brat like you. Since that black dragon is busy absorbing the origin blood drop, it won't have any strength left. Right now you are just a fish on the chopping board." Hearing that challenge, he still smiled calmly. "Is that so? A hybrid dragon actually expects to eat the demon dragon alive? What an absolute joke." Instantly, the blazing ancient dragon let out a furious, sky-shaking roar. A giant sphere radiating terrifying energy appeared, making him cry out in panic. "What on earth is that?" Immediately after, a bird with brilliantly colored plumage slowly glided out. It immediately released a frightening wave of pressure and rushed straight toward the blazing ancient dragon. The energy from the small bird tightly wrapped around its opponent, freezing the blazing ancient dragon in place, completely unable to move. With its superb devouring ability, that surge of power easily swallowed the dragon's flames whole. Witnessing that strange scene, Lord Count turned pale with fear. How could the dragon's flames be burned away by purple flames? This is unbelievable. He shrieked in confusion. The red flame of the blazing ancient dragon is clearly a platinum-grade ultimate move. Not to mention you are a dragon tamer. Why on earth did you tame a fire attribute bird? Looking at the changing expression on his opponent's face, he just shrugged and smiled faintly. When did I ever admit that I am a dragon tamer? Lu Fu smugly explained further, and as for why it could swallow those flames, the reason is incredibly simple. He casually delivered a fatal blow simply because those red flames are of such a pitifully low grade. Those words left him stunned and he gasped in shock. "What?" Lu Fu added, "Not only those flames but even the blazing ancient dragon you worship is merely a low-grade creature. Since you are such frogs at the bottom of a well, I will grant you the favor of opening your eyes to what peak beast taming is. Imperial chains. Before the majesty of the king, all inferior beings must bow down." The glowing red chains tightly encircled the fire dragon, leaving it completely paralyzed, unable to budge even an inch.